stage, picture you willing to bleed, picture you wearing my scars. Quote. He lifted his shirt slightly to show his stomach and flared his chakra, allowing the seal to show and making the headmaster blink before narrowing his eyes while several girls squealed. The newspaper club. Being a part of it. Some guys in the club seethed quietly while others ignored it, figuring he was just going for more points to the judges. The Monstars, grouped together in the back, all chuckled, Mac taking a sip of the Coke in his hands. Fucking show off, he jokingly grumbled with a smile on his face. Naruto locked eyes with Sky, giving her a SM. All smile before he continued as he crouched in effort to get close and bowed his head as the lights dimmed slightly. Thank you for making me struggle, thank you for making me grind. You helped perfected my hustle. Tellin' me the world ain't mine. Naruto stood and looked over the crowd as his clones continued to beatbox. The blonde held his right hand out while switching his mic to his left hand. You been seeing me lately? I'm a miracle baby. I refuse to lose, this what the village done made me. I put that on my father, tryin' ta hope for tomorrow. When I think that I can't, I envision Jiraiya. A clone stepped back and hanged into a pillar while two other clones jumped onto it and did a combined henge, forming the sage in his usual introduction speech while standing atop the toad. The blonde turned and gave a quick salute to the statue as the rest of the clones stepped forward. Naruto turned and continued, I envision the diamonds, I envision no armies. If the world was perfect, all my friends behind me, all my friends behind me. Aren't you happy I made it? That I'm making a statement. Take a look, bitch, you can tell I'm destined for greatness. Naruto threw his arms out as two clones used henge. One jumping behind the statue of Jiraiya and becoming the Hokage monument with his face on it in a serious stare while being next to Tsunade's. The other hanged into the cage robes, his hands behind his back. Tell me what do ya see, when you're looking at me? The blonde asked, running his open hand over his face as he sang the chorus, on a mission to be, what I'm destined to be. Oh, I done been through the pain and the sorrow, I live only to love. I'm a soldier, a fighter, a hardened survivor, shit, I'm all the above. All the above, oh, all the above, oh, all the aboo of. All the above, oh, all the above yee-ah. Naruto hopped down from the stage to the floor just in front of the judge's table and hopped onto that, startling Mr. Inoue and Jin while the headmaster chuckled and wrote on his scoreboard while Sky shook her head and did the same. The blonde ignored the judges as he continued, now if ya come to the spot, all the way from the dock. I hustle hard cause it's all the same, they know. And you know that I ain't goin' stop cause when I get to the top, and everyone'll know my name. They'll know. Naruto leapt back to the stage before turning around and the lights dimmed again as his tomo spun slowly, still fightin', still hustling. No more pain, no more sufferin'. Naruto ran his hand through the air in a final swipe motion to emphasize his goal of ending suffering before he pointed to his friends in the newspaper club and his Monstars brethren, to my ladies ND my shorties and my thugs start dancing and bath in my love. All the above, oh, all the above, oh, all the aboo of, all the above, oh, all the above yeah. Naruto dismissed all of his clones, including the hanged ones, before dimming the lights and having a spotlight shine down on himself. The blonde took a small breath before continuing softly, all the above, all the above. Oh, all the above. All the above, all the aboo of. As he finished he dropped his arms and looked out to the crowd. The audience stood and cheered wildly, clapping, whistling, shouting profanity in approval. A pair of panties shot onto the blonde's face, making him turn a bright shade of red before chuckling and throwing them to the side. The judges stood and clapped, to which he bowed and nodded his head thankfully. Naruto panted slightly while out of breath and said, I'd like to thank Blitz and Sky for their help in this, my friends in the newspaper club for their support. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming and not checking under your seats. Yane. The moment he said that, he vanished before a loud fart echoed in the auditorium and a nasty smell overcame the room. Several people cried out in dismay while the Monstars laughed and coughed. The newspaper club were whisked away by several swirls of leaves, as were the Monstars and Sky. The headmaster coughed and rubbed his eyes furiously. Smug little brat, despite this, he will be the entertainment for the next family gathering, the headmaster thought sinisterly while next to him a certain vice president growled as he hacked on the scent. The aggravated teen's thoughts were, I'm going to kill Uzumaki. 3 weeks had passed since the talent show and Naruto's prank, as well as his consequence, had taken full effect. People were finally washing the smells off, and the girls all chastised the blonde before congratulating him on his performance. Thankfully, Naruto had managed to accept all of their congratulation kisses without any of them starting a fight. A feat many would consider impossible. Speaking of the blonde, Naruto yawned as he plopped down in his chair in the meeting room for the Monstars. Not noticing the smirks on the faces of his other members when they looked at him. A round of laughter came from the two spirits from the UK. Vern bit down on his lip so hard, blood slowly began dripping from it. Blitz and Draco shook their heads, smiles on their faces, while the former kept his hand over his younger sister's eyes. Yukari muffled spell after spell into the hand of her Tibetan brother. What the hell are you two laughing about now? Naruto asked tiredly, and don't start with the whole inside joke shit, 'cause I haven't said a damn thing yet. Hell, I haven't even showered yet. We can tell. Blitz chuckled out, extending his hand and freezing a small mirror into place before the Tomo-eyed blonde. Draco's smile grew as he tossed a small towel onto the mirror. Why? The tired blonde grabbed before looking in it. Naruto furrowed his brows and looked down, his eyes widening at what he saw. Purple lipstick was decorating his face in the shape of thin lips. The two moles in his eyes spun backwards as confusion overcame him and he slowly wiped at them before yelping and pulling his hand away. What's wrong, fag? Mac teasingly asked, get a little sick at the touch of a woman's lipstick. Fuck off. Naruto snarled, his eyes flashing Mangekyo as they narrowed and looked at the mirror closely examining the lipstick mark on his left cheek before he spoke again. It's cold. Cold. Rawhead scoffed, daft idiot. It's a kiss. How can it bleed and be cold? He must really be deep in the closet, Mac chuckled out before hissing in pain when Vern kicked him. Mac looked ready to retort violently before he noticed the look on the wyvern's face. Mac glanced around the table, noting that Yukari's face was still being covered by Blitz, before looking at the blonde on his right. You said it was cold? Blitz quietly asked. Naruto didn't reply, he lifted the towel up to his face and wiped at it again, gritting his teeth when he started rubbing it away. The cold seeped through the towel and latched onto his skin. Naruto yelped again when the cold affected him and brought his covered toweled hand away from his face. Gah! Yukari finally yelped when she pried Blitz, hand away from her face before she glared at the white-haired boy. Why'd you do that, Ni-san? I couldn't breathe. S&M might be for Sky-chan. Oh, hi Naruto-kun, what's on your face? Naruto remained silent, his eyes narrowing as he rubbed furiously at the marks on his face. The reflection in the mirror began morphing and his eyes went wide when he saw the new reflection. Mocha-chan, he thought as the young vampire girl stared him in the face. Mocha smiled and puckered her lips, covered in purple lipstick, before blowing him a kiss. He jumped back, knocking his chair over. He popped the towel in his hand and pressed his back against the wall as the mirror slowly stood on its edge, Mocha's smiling face within it. Purple marks replaced the red blood she had and a small frown crossed her face. Why didn't you kiss me, Naruto-kun? Why didn't you take me as your own? She asked him. Naruto gripped his head and squeezed his eyes shut. When he opened them, he was on his back. His arms being held down by Rawhead and Vern while Mac was shaking his shoulders and shouting at him in an ancient Irish language. What? Who? What happened? The Tomoed blonde asked with confusion as the three helped him up. Mac sat him in a chair and used his right hand to open his eye, examining it. Vern, the leprechaun slowly said, get me a blonde woman that's tall, got big tits, and enjoys a good fuck. What'll that do? Vern asked curiously as he watched the red-headed Irishman examine the blonde's eye. Mac looked at the wyvern with a completely serious face. It'll guarantee I get fucked before school lets out. Ya fucking stupid man. he replied, earning laughter from the others, aside from the tired blonde, before looking at the Tomodai boy. As for the lad, give, I am a penicillin. All he, as is a fever and that strange purple. Marks, boyo, who was it ye was hanging out with the day before today? He hung out with the cow, the shark, and Mocha-chan, Max-san, Yukari chimed in. Joining the leprechaun's position examining the purple marks, can I get a sample? Maybe Kasa knows where it came from. Good idea, Yukari-chan, Blitz quietly praised, patting her head, before looking at Draco. Drake. We need to get it off. Yeah, I know, Draco replied, puffing on his cigarette before snorting smoke through his nostrils. Contact Merlin, his number's over by the apple. You know Merlin. Yukari shrieked, the Merlin. Blitz chuckled and patted the young witch's head again, making her scowl at his actions and wishing she didn't leave her hat in her room. Nah. Merlin's second cousin Mitchell Merlin III, he was here 2 years ago and part of our group. I'll give him a buzz and see if he knows what to do. Right, Draco nodded before looking at Yukari. Sorry Squirt. But you've got the worst job possible. What's that, Draco-san? Yukari asked, looking up at the smirking dragon. When her eyes met his, her little heart sped up and fear grasped her mindset. She regretted asking the words when she looked around and saw everyone else, even Naruto, had a small smirk on their face. Naruto-kun koi's sick. 3 voices shrieked in the halls, making several students cover their ears in pain. Yukari gasped in fear as she clung to Mocha's leg for dear life before Kurumu grabbed her by the collar of her jacket. Where's my destined one? He needs me, the succubus shouted, shaking the small witch. In a flash, Mocha and Tamao interfered with her rather unique way of interrogation. Mocha nodded as she held the frightened witch in a comforting hug, one that easily soothed her fears. Kurumu sighed before narrowing her eyes and pulling her arms free, crossing them under her impressive bust and making several catcallers very happy. Yeah, okay, whatever. The blue-haired girl relented before locking her eyes on Tamao, who said you could console Naruto-koi. Tamao's own eyes narrowed and she poked Kurumu in the chest roughly, making several witnesses' eyes gleam with anticipation. Before harshly saying, the same person who decided you'd be the one to help my mate. Couldn't we all cheer him up? Mocha suggested before shrinking back under the glares of her 2 rivals. Right. Not so much a good idea. Sorry. Humph, it doesn't matter anyway because Draco-san and Blitz-ni-kun have put Naruto-kun under quarantine. Yukari scoffed before, slapping her hands under her mouth as the 3 girls locked their eyes on her. Mocha furrowed her brows and Tamao put her fists on her hips while Kurumu gritted her teeth. Who put Naruto-kun koi under quarantine? The 3 questioned. Yukari swallowed and tried hopelessly to think of something before sighing and looking around. The last bell had rung nearly 5 minutes ago, allowing the girls free roam of the school. Yukari didn't want to risk being followed, taken her with him to the Monstars meetings in his weird Shunshin thing. With a reluctant sigh, the young witch looked at them and hardened her resolve before saying, Meet me in my room in 20 minutes, I gotta do my homework before I explain. For what? Mocha asked, only to be met with silence from the young witch as she walked away. Nervousness on her face as she contemplated how she was going to tell Draco how badly she messed up. The Pinkett looked at the 2 blue-haired girls now locked in a glare down before her green eyes narrowed. We've got 20 minutes, Tamao said, crossing her arms, so we each get at least a chance to say, honestly, how far we've each gotten with Naru-kun. At least we don't suck him dry in public like a cheap whore. Kurumu snarled before clamping a hand over her mouth as her eyes widened. Tamao's eyes widened as well before she covered her gasp with her hands and looked at the vampire. Mocha visibly flinched from the verbal blow before closing her eyes and turning around. She barely looked over her shoulder when she spoke. I'll see you at Yukari's later, the Pinkett vampire mumbled out before walking away. The blue-haired girls exchanged a worried glance before rushing after their frenemy, one apologizing repetitively while the other consoled her by wrapping her arms around the Pinkett's shoulders. In the Monstars room, Naruto's head snapped up and the purple mark glowed before cracking slightly. The 3 guarding him, Draco, Rawhead, and Vern, all tensed when he moved. When he last went into a daze, his first one, he softly exclaimed his desire for a female body. He stood up to leave to do something, but when Rawhead got in his way, he simply backhand dead the Scottish ghoul with his left hand. It took Blitz to knock him to the ground, the others jumping on him shortly afterwards. Naruto. Vern slowly asked, hesitant to talk to their possessed friend, "You okay, bro?" Something is wrong," the blonde whispered, his eyes looking to the sky. "Something is getting close. Very close, I can feel its anger." The three monsters play. In guard for the blonde exchanged a concerned glance. Suddenly, Naruto's head jerked back and his body convulsed as purple lightning streaked across his skin. The three jumped back and went into defensive poses when they suddenly stopped and looked with wide eyes at their blonde friend. His eyes had become completely purple and his mouth was the same shade as them. He turned his head to look at Draco and said, "Release me." "Dude, anyone else got the feeling of déjà vu?" Rawhead asked as he repressed a shudder. Draco did the same and shakily pulled a cigarette out before lighting it and taking a puff. Calm. Due to the nicotine in his veins, the dragon looked at the blonde. "What deity am I speaking with?" Draco asked, narrowing his eyes slightly. "What is your name?" The purple eyes closed. As the mouth curled upwards in a smile before the eyes opened again, "The boy's mind calls me Kyuubi, his demon, but that overgrown fur ball of fun is still trapped. I am lust. I want a body. I want a body, now." Draco narrowed his eyes and crossed his arms before asking doubtfully, "Lust? One of the seven?" Naruto's head nodded before Lust spoke again. "That's right. This boy, a fine specimen of human demon mind you, has so much lust directed at him, I slowly began to develop within him. What a dirty mind he has from his life, too. A shame it is not the body I want." "Yeah, okay, that's not weird at all," Vern muttered. Rawhead nodded his agreement as he nervously cracked his knuckles. "What do we have to do in order for you to have the body you want?" Draco asked, taking another puff of smoke before glancing at Vern and Rawhead, silently telling them to relax. The two did as their president instructed, but still kept nervous glares locked on their possessed friend. Lust laughed, "Ma." Them all twitch from hearing their friend's mouth release a disturbed laugh, before looking at them with a smirk. "This boy could give me a body. The body I want, the one I lust for. Coo. Okie dokie, that's all for me, then," Rawhead said as he slowly backed away. "Seeing that idiot laugh creepily is enough to get Nessie out the lock." "What does Naruto have to do?" Draco asked with a furrowed brow. "Will it hurt him?" Questions, all sentient beings are the same after all," Lust purred out with a smile, making Vern gag slightly, before it became serious. "Undo this boy's, Naruto you called him. Binds and I shall release my hold on him. Yeah, how's about we don't do that, and instead we find a way to exorcise her ass to the fiery depths of hell, ya fucking bitch." Rawhead snarled, his fists clenching. "Ye possessed our friend. Why should we take her word for anything worth anything? Because she's one of the 7 sins." Blitz exclaimed as he walked into the room. In his hand was a book that looked older than time itself. The Yeti walked over to Draco and whispered, "Yukari spilled the beans to those girls, we have 10 minutes to get this thing out of Naruto before she spills her guts about all of us. She's on toilet duty for 3 weeks after this." The dragon growled before looking at their possessed friend and loudly asking, "Okay, so say we unbind you, what happens then?" "Then I simply leave my host's body for another, provided you find a female body that suits my desires." Lust chuckled out before grinning. "Good luck with that by the way. God, where are we going to find a willing sacrifice for Naruto? And don't say those girls." Blitz shouted before Mac could suggest anything. The small leprechaun scowled and crossed his arms before muttering under his breath. Draco and Blitz exchanged a glance before going to either side of their bound friend. Before either did something, Draco asked again, "You swear not to stay in Naruto's body?" "Oh, I do solemnly swear, Mr. Bogart," Lust purred, batting Naruto's eyelashes at him. Draco and Blitz swallowed the vomit that threatened to come from their mouths at the sight before slicking the leather bands and unlocking the chains that kept the blonde in the seat. The purple colors faded and Naruto stood, holding his head. "Naruto, you okay?" Draco asked as he helped the Tomoe boy steady himself. The blonde grunted before shaking his head. Kami, and I thought the Baka Kitsune was hard enough to endure, Naruto grumbled before righting himself and cracking his knuckles. Everyone stand back, I got a spirit in me. And I'm letting it out. That's what she said. Mak and Rawhead cried out, making Naruto smirk before he lifted his hands into a focusing hand seal. Oroku Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto said as created a duplicate of himself. The space next to him was enshrouded in smoke before a purple light left Naruto, making the mark on his cheek vanish before a purple beauty mark appeared on the face of the duplicate that appeared on Naruto's left, just in front of Draco. The Monstars members' jaws all fell as Naruto smiled in pride at his original technique. Standing before them, with two long blonde ponytails and purple irises in her eyes, was a female version of their blonde friend. She was wearing a tight-fitting black shirt, enhancing her D-cup-sized bust, and hip-hugging jeans ending at the middle of her calf. On her feet were two sandals similar to Naruto's, only hers were blue instead of black. She smiled at the blonde, her purple lipstick-covered lips arching at both ends and making the faint whisker marks on her cheeks crinkle together. Mak was the first to speak, so you are a transsexual. Oh, go fuck yourself. Naruto snapped, turning on T. He small shrimp with a glare before smiling at the possessed Oroku Bunshin. So, lust, huh? Yes, thank you, Naruto, lust purred, leaning towards him with a suggestive smile. Naruto held his hand up and pushed her back slightly as he nervously laughed. The Monstars all watched as the possessed Oroku Bunshin continued to flirt with the blonde. Oh, this is bullshit. Mak cried out, the fucking B2. What the fuck, man? Sorry. Mak-kun, lust purred, jumping onto Naruto's back and making the Tomoe blonde stumble forwards, but you just don't smell right. Smell? What's that supposed to mean then? Rawhead asked, only to receive a finger from the Sin as she flicked him off and wrapped her arm around Naruto's neck. With the skill of an expert, Lust smirked at them and blew them on. Stars a kiss before she whisked the blonde away in a purple version of his shunshin. We still, avenue to save, I am, don't we? The green-haired leprechaun muttered as his shoulders slumped. Vern pat his shorter friend's shoulder reassuringly while Draco rubbed his eyes. Am I the only one shocked Naruto knew how to change genders? The dragon asked the group, making them pause before they each save for Blitz dashed for an available garbage can. Draco smirked and shook his head while the Tibetan chuckled. The two oldest members of the Monstars exchanged a glance before looking at the recovering members. Draco, using his position as head honcho expertly, spoke in a commanding fashion, you three, go search for the sicko I mean Naruto. Blitz and I gotta go talk to Yukari about something. Right boss, fine. Were the responses he received before they each used a spell or incantation to teleport from the room. Draco and Blitz looked at each other before they too left the Monstars room. Okay, we're here. Mocha said with a cheerful smile, what did you want to show us, Yukari? Mocha was happier now as she got the two blue-headed girls she considered her friends, or frenemies as Kurumu put it, to apologize. They also agreed that rather than fight continuously for the blonde's heart, they would try a fair way of getting Naruto to be theirs. The only problem they had now was how they would decide a fair way to get an attractive boy's heart without using his second brain. Who were Blitz and Draco? Tamo asked, her inner detective hard at work as she tried to recall where she had heard the names before. And where's Naru-kun? Well, you see, Naruto-kun is, Yukari fumbled for a response before yelping when she saw the enraged face on the succubus. The young brown-haired witch jumped behind Mocha and peeked out between the girl's legs, making the poor vampire blush slightly before she exclaimed, I don't know what Blitzni and Draco-san did with Naruto-kun. Who are they? Kurumu hissed as her form started to change, you have 3 seconds to tell me, which. Before the blue-haired succubus could begin counting, Nox came at the door and Yukari sighed in relief. She quickly dashed to the door and opened it, jumping into the arms of a surprised white-haired teen nearly 6.5 feet tall. The 3 girls in the room L felt their eyes widen as they looked at the size of the 2 teens before them. Easy there, Imouto, the white-haired man quietly said, his voice seeming cool as ice. What's got ya worked up? Quote! Quote. The witch quickly spat out before climbing onto the shoulder of the tall teen and dropping to wrap her arms around his neck and hide behind his back. Save me. Draco laughed at Yukari's terrified state before stepping forward, allowing Blitz to soothe his younger sister's fears of being killed. The bald, tattooed teen pulled another cigarette out and looked at the wide eyes of the three girls. With an arched brow, he asked, "All right if I light one up? It's a little tense in here, and I'm starting to get nervous." "Believe me, you don't want me nervous." The three wordlessly nodded their heads as they looked up at the incredibly tall teen, and Draco lit his cigarette before putting his pack away and took a long inhale of the smoke. With a relaxed sigh, Draco put the cancer stick between his right fingers and pulled it from his mouth before speaking. "I'm Draco. That's all you need to know. Behind me is Blitz. Yukari is his little adoptive sister. We're both senior members of a extra CU curricular club your friend Naruto joined some time ago. How come Naruto-kun never told us about the club, Draco-san?" Mocha barely asked. The smoking teen smiled and took another puff of his cigarette. "It's a guys only," Draco said before quickly adding, "but we're starting to expand our choices, as Yukari is a hopeful, who's going to start Hell Week soon enough." At that mutter, Yukari SW allowed and ducked behind Blitz once again. "Where's Naru-kun?" Tamao asked, stepping towards the teen and crossing her arms. "And just what is this club?" "The Army Surplus Club." "Is that how Naru-kun got his vest?" "To answer your questions in reverse, yes, no, and I can't tell you, for the last two," Draco answered, taking another puff on his stick. "I don't know where that idiot went. Some bitch sin or something possessed him. Had him make a clone of himself, possessed the clone, and then took him away." "Took him away?" the girl shrieked, having only heard the last part before they broke out into an uproar. Blitz sighed and turned around to look at Yukari while Draco tried to calm the three girls down. The Yeti had a bad feeling about this, and it didn't help that one of the 7 human sins was what they were dealing with. "If it is the sin I'm thinking of, and I hope to God it's not, then we might not be able to find Naruto," Blitz thought as he knelt to comfort the crying Yukari, who burst into tears after hearing her Naruto-kun was kidnapped. The Yeti hugged his younger sister before thinking, "I just pray Naruto can handle himself against the bane of male kind." "Naruto-kun, wake up sleepyhead," a voice purred. Naruto groaned before slowly sitting up, grabbing his head as he did so before looking around. In front of him, thankfully fully clothed, was Lust. His thoughts were thankful as that meant it wasn't another psycho girl trying to get him in the sack. He then examined the room, noting the very expensive-looking decor that was around it. The bed he was on, for example, was softer than anything he had ever slept on before. Tomo's eyes widened as Naruto realized something. He had slept on something as soft as this before. His face flushed in remembrance as he barely slept on that bed at all. A knock came at the door and the two occupants of the room looked to the right, before Lust cheerfully called out, "He's here, clean, dressed, and ready to go, mistress." "Mistress?" Naruto thought in confusion before the door opened and a figure walked in. Naruto's eyes widened and he felt his mouth drop as he took in the figure's platinum blonde hair, held up in a fancy hairstyle, and the striking blue eyes that were slightly turquoise, eyes shining with love and joy. The robes were similar to what he had seen the girl, and he knew she was a girl in before when they had a mighty adventure that ended with satisfaction in more ways than one. He swallowed to regain the saliva he lost from taking in her figure, and in a quiet tone, no louder than a calm whisper, Naruto spoke her name. Shion-chan. Shion-chan. Naruto cried in joy, hopping from his spot on the bed and rushing to the priestess he saved the world with not too long ago. He wrapped his arms around her and hugged her tightly before lifting her into the air and spinning her around. The priestess giggled at the blonde's childish antics, one of the few reasons she loved him, before hugging him back and kissing his cheek. "Hello, Naruto-kun," Shion quietly and calmly replied before stepping back and smiling at him. "I'm sorry that my acquaintance possessed you." Who, her? Naruto asked, pointing over his shoulder with his thumb at the possessed clone before waving his hand. Bah, no biggie. Look at you though, you haven't aged at all. Shion lightly smacked his chest. And giggled while her face turned a lighter shade of red. Baka, it's only been 10 months. Practically a year to me. The blonde exclaimed, his Tomoed eyes spinning slowly. Shion took notice to this and gasped. Naruto blinked in concern and looked at a mirror before the light in his eyes dropped and his posture slacked. Right, Bachan probe quiet about what happened, the teen whispered before. Walking over to a nearby chair and sitting in it, running a hand over his face. Lust blinked before looking at her mistress. If that is all, then I command you keep your side of the bargain. Mistress, she hissed, her eyes narrowing. I will return for my pay. You know that I will want my part of the deal soon enough. Shion frowned before nodding, with a secretive smile towards the blonde Hanyu. Lust combusted in a burst of purple flames. The spot she once had occupied was now empty, not so much as a scorched mark from the flames on the carpeting. Naruto rubbed his eyes and groaned. Way, too much freaky shit going on at that school, he muttered, I'm too used to it. What happened to your eyes, Naruto-kun? The priestess asked as she slowly walked over to him, and, why are you not in Konohagakure? The teen growled at the mention of his former home before closing his eyes and sighing. He opened them and looked at the priestess of Demon Country with sorrow. Pain overcame his heart as it clenched tightly in his chest as he remembered. The blonde spoke softly in response, it's a long story, Shion-chan. A hand fell on his arm and Naruto's Tomoed eyes locked onto the concerned turquoise ones that belonged to the psychic priestess. Shion cupped his cheek and lightly ran a thumb over the furthest edge of his top whisker mark, making him relax slightly, before she whispered, I've always got time for you. My Koibito. The blonde teen sighed and let Shion lead him to a chair, where he sat before he pulled her onto his lap and wrapped his arms around her. As the priestess ighed in comfort and snuggled into his chest, Naruto softly said, it all began 4 months ago after we saved Gaara, my friend and brother Jinchuriki, as well as the Godime Cage. Any luck on getting a lead? Mac asked as he walked over to Vern's side, looking over his shoulder at the strange machine the Wyvern and Yeti had crafted. It looked similar to something from a movie, what with a glowing handheld appliance attached to a large mechanized backpack of some sort. Vern lifted his headphones that were attached to the machine and sighed as he lowered the appliance in his left hand. No, goddamn it, what did Blitz mean by, she's a sin? The slightly taller teen asked as he looked at the last place they had seen their blonde friend. I've tried scanning for ectoplasm, ashes, snot, fecal matter, cum, juice. Fruit punch. Mac asked with an arched brow, the hell? You'd be surprised how hat works as a trace, Rawhead said as he resumed looking through old books he had taken from the Monstar's library, aka the headmaster's personal library. The boogeyman scowled and slammed another book shut before sliding it away. I cannot find a single thing about the sin. This is god-awful, I tell ye. It's about to get worse, Mac groaned as Blitz walked in with a depressed Yukari in his arms and Draco led the 3 girls chasing their friend's heart. Mocha, Tamao, and Kurumu were all in awe as they looked around the Monstar's base of operations. Oi, what are they doin', asked the boogeyman as he eyed the girls with distrust and a small hint of fear. Ye know the rules, Yukari. We brought them, Proby, Draco snarled, his own anger being showed by the smoke exhaling from his nose, so lay off. Aye sir, Rawhead said before going back to looking through the books. His eyes fearfully going over each word with accurate detail. Tamao and Mocha blinked when they recognized Rawhead and Vern before narrowing their eyes in anger at them before their eyes widened in realization. Naruto-kun, Naru-kun, lied to me. They both thought with hurt crossing their faces, Mocha lifting a hand to her chest and Tamao clenching her jaw and fists. The girl jumped when Blitz slammed a large book on the table and threw it open, his face contorted in anger. This is what took Naruto, the Yeti growled as he pointed at a picture of a sultry-looking demon. Running a hand over the thigh of William Shakespeare as he wrote the classic love story titled Romeo and Juliet, Lust. One of the 7 sins of humanity. She often takes nights with those she believes to be important to the forming of the world. That or she made a deal with someone, highly unlikely. Though, so, Naruto-kun is gonna be important? Mocha asked, looking at the picture and scowling at T. He thought of another girl having Naruto alone and at her whim. As if it wasn't hard enough to deal with a succubus and mermaid, now the Pinkett had a sin to deal with. Blitz nodded before he continued, apparently the Proby. Proby? Kurumu asked, her eyes narrowing, you didn't do anything to my Naruto koi, did you? Proby is the same as a rookie, Draco said as he lit another cigarette. W.E. wouldn't go near the punk's rear if that's what you're suggesting. Ah, God, that's a horrid thought. Mac exclaimed with a shudder, what dumbass would even consider going near that faggot's ass? What did you say? Kurumu shrieked, leaping at Mac and wailing blow after blow on his jaw. Rawhead and Vern burst out in laughter as Mac cried out in pain before he utilized his teleporting skills and reappeared behind Blitz. Shivering in fear, she's a witch, Mac whimpered out. Yukari, shuddering on his left, nodded in agreement. He's not gay. He can't be gay, Kurumu snarled, her eyes narrowing at the leprechaun. So if I hear you call him gay one more time. Well, this is quite unexpected. The 9 in the room turned to see the headmaster sitting at Draco's vacant seat with his fingertips pressing against one another. He smiled, his eyes and teeth glowing in the oddly shaded light, before continuing, so, care to tell me why young Rawhead here decided to take from my library, Drake? Kun, I'm gonna kill you for this. Draco thought with a glare to the swallowing boogeyman. Ah, shit, Drake's gonna kill me fair this, Rawhead thought with a shiver of fear as he met Draco's angered eyes. And I've been going to that school ever since, the blonde mumbled from his seat, his head resting against Shien's own as she rested hers on his right shoulder. They had been settled like that for quite some time now, his story taking nearly 50 minutes to tell, as he told her the whole battle until he couldn't remember anymore. So, you've been out of Konoha for 2 months? Shien quietly asked, saddened and angry at her beloved's former village's actions. Naruto sighed and nodded, a small smile coming to his face. It's not all bad though, I guess, the tomo-dyed blonde mused as he thought of Mocha, Tamao, Kurumu, Yukari and the other Mon-stars. I've managed to keep myself entertained. What do you mean it's not bad? Shien asked, her rage taking over as she shot up from her seat on his lap. Naruto looked at the priestess with confusion and surprise in his blue eyes and she continued, they kicked you out for an accident. If it happened once, it could have happened again, Naruto muttered sadly. Having come to terms with his banishment a while ago. That's a poor excuse, Naruto-kun. Shien cried, her eyes brimming with tears from becoming so worked up. Top that Uchiha monster from taking drastic actions. You almost killed Orochimaru. You brought Konoha's prized Kekkei Genkei back for them. Shien-chan, he spoke softly as he stood and put his hands on her shoulders. I almost killed Sakura-chan, Yamato-sensei, and Sai, too. 2 of the 3 are my friends and superiors. In a shinobi village, that's almost as bad as killing your family. But you didn't kill your family. Shien whimpered, hugging him and burying her face into his chest. Me and Hige-chan are all right. They shouldn't have banished you, taken your dream from you. Did you say, me and Hige-chan? Naruto interrupted, snapping from the frozen position he was in since Shien hugged him. The priestess seemed to snap from her angry depression and small smile came to her face. Confused, Naruto tilted his head slightly and was about to ask a queenly left his embrace, her hand wrapping around his wrist. Hi, I can't believe I forgot. The priestess pulled the stronger Hanyu along with her, making the blonde Tomo-dai boy yip in confusion as they dashed from her chambers to the room right down the hall. Stopping outside the door, Shien released Naruto's wrista. ND straightened her kimono and hair before rapping on the wood. Who is it? A young woman's voice asked. Shien spoke back with authority and restrained excitement, it's Shien, Rin-san. I've brought him. Oh, Gomen, Shien-sama. A young servant girl wearing a plain white yakuta, her short red hair pulled back into a bun, apologized as she opened the door. I was just changing Naruto-sama. Hi. Naruto waved nervously at the surprised servant. Uzumaki Naruto, you are. The girl released an eep at his question and bowed her head before replying, Gomen, Uzumaki-sama. I didn't know your surname. Just Naruto is fine. The blonde replied with surprise. Shion smiled at him before smiling at the servant. It's okay, Rin-san, I'll take the changing from here, Shion confirmed with the servant. The girl nodded, her head staying bowed, before she quickly shuffled out of the room. Naruto blinked before looking at the amused priestess, who giggled before replying, I'm sorry. Naruto-kun. She's not used to meeting Oni no Kuni's hero. Naruto blushed at the praise and scratched the back of his head, hey, guess I forgot about that tittle. Shion merely smiled before a quiet cry echoed in the room. Naruto watched with surprise as the priestess went to the changing table, where a small form twisted and fussed, before she spoke in a quiet voice, oh, hello Hige-chan. Kasen's here now, my baby. Don't cry. We'll have you clean in a minute. Naruto-kun, can you get me the blanket lying in the crib? Sure Shion-chan, he replied with a little hesitance. A part of him, a distant part, had a tugging hold in the back of his mind and heart, and Naruto had the feeling he would be fainting soon. Why, he was unsure, but he was positive it would happen. Naruto walked into the blue room decorated with orange swirls and foxes, making him subconsciously scratch his left cheek, before coming to the crib and grabbing the small orange blanket that seemed slightly familiar. Noting red swirl in the middle and the black edging along the sides, Naruto wondered if this was his missing jacket from some time ago. Walking back to Shion, he smiled and shook his head as he held the blanket out to her, Shion-chan. If you needed a blanket you could have bought one for the baby, you didn't need to give some stranger's kid, my, JJJJJ. Oh, thank you Naruto-kun, Shion absently replied with a smile to the frozen teen staring at the small infant lying on the changing table. The short sunny platinum blonde hair and the 3 faint whisker marks had gotten his attention especially. But the wailing was hitting numbed ears. In the back of his mind, a deep cackle echoed before a deep voice said, well, guess my numbskull of a container is a man now, Gaki. Oh, there we are, all better. Shion cooed to the infant she wrapped up in an orange blanket. Naruto's eyes followed the girl's baby as she cradled the bundle before turning towards him with a smile on her face. Shion looked at the baby and spoke softly. Naruto-kun, I'd like you to meet your son, Uzumaki Hige. A thump echoed in the room, signaling the fainting of 117-year-old Uzumaki Naruto. Oh, is that all? The headmaster asked after getting the whole story, taking a span of 20 minutes, 5 of which were to keep Draco from strangling Rawhead. Well, he should return soon enough. He has to escort my apprentice here after all. Apprentice? Draco questioned. The headmaster smiled secretively, refusing to say anything more on the matter. Well, fine, but what about this Sin woman? Kurumu asked, concern for the blonde she deemed her destined ruling her mind. The headmaster smiled even wider before he replied. She's most likely now back where she belongs, he replied. Rawhead scowled, crossing his arms over his chest. Yeah, 'cause that's a good answer, the boogeyman grumbled. The Monstar's leader smacked the teen upside the head. Shut up, Rawhead, Draco hissed, already pissed at the specter more than he wanted to be. We don't get answers from him, we get orders. Yeah, Rawhead mumbled, rubbing his sore head. Did ye, Avenue Ta hit me so goddamn hard? Yes, fuck you, I'm flattered. Gah, piss off. Should we stop them? Mocha asked Tamao as they watched the two start to get into a shouting match. Mac and Vern were making bets as to when fists would fly and headmaster merely watched with growing amusement. What are you, crazy? The mermaid asked in return before snickering. This is gold. I can see why Naru-kun hangs out with them. Saying his name drove the mermaid into a small spiral of despair. She hugged herself and frowned. I want him back. Want who back? The girls all turned to see the blonde in question standing there with a platinum blonde girl standing on his right. She was dressed rather regally and in her arms was a small orange bundle. Naruto was shaking nervously and kept glancing at the bundle whenever he could. Before anyone could ask anything, a blue blur shot past the two girls and pulled Naruto between her pillows. His arms flailed comically as he fought for air, but Kurumu had a monster grip on the blonde's head. Oh Narukoi, I missed you so much. Kurumu cried as she slowly began suffocating the blonde. The Monstars all snickered at their friend's predicament before Blitz grabbed Kurumu's shoulders, pulling her away from the blonde teen. Naruto fell to the ground while Kurumu cussed Blitz out, unknowingly earning the glare from the newcomer. Holy cow. Naruto corrected himself once he felt the glare on him, sorry. God. I needed air. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? The newcomer asked, a smile tugging at her lips. Naruto nodded and cracked his neck, grunting at the pain. Ow, now I am, he replied with a smile. Thanks for asking Shion-chan. Shion who, what? Were the respective questions of the Monstars and the girls present. Naruto swallowed in fear as Kurumu, Tamao, and Mocha all appeared before him, demanding answers. Who is this girl? What happened, Naruto-kun? Why did you call her Shion-chan, Naru-kun? Naruto-koi, what happened to the Sin? Did she hurt you? Can I kill the bitch? Naruto took a deep breath before quietly speaking the one word two of the three girls were terrified of, Tsukuyomi. Quote, "Ah man, I hate this place," Kurumu whimpered, huddling with Mocha. While inner Mocha and Tamao shivered involuntarily. So, will you be quiet now? Naruto asked, his usual attire when in Tsukuyomi on and earning Tamao's undivided attention. Naru-kun, you look so hot, the mermaid drawled out before she began to drool as she leered at his tight-fitting shirt. Naruto took a precautionary step back and looked at the four gathered. Now listen, he said sternly, no one is to hurt Shion-chan. Period. Shion whom? Inner Mocha asked, her eyes narrowing as she crossed her arms over her chest. Naruto didn't skip a beat and wrapped his hand around her neck, surprising the girls with his ungodly speed in Tsukuyomi. You especially, Mocha-san, he growled, his eyes flashing to Mangekyo, leave Shion-chan alone. Am I understood? Inner Mocha smirked and surprised the three girls and the blonde by slipping her leg between his and pushing him onto his back. The three girls gasped, but before they could aid their crush, they were suddenly subdued by several large bats. Mocha blinked before meeting the attention of her inner self. I accept your choice, my other self, Inner said before looking back at the blonde she had pinned to the ground. He is strong, he will make a good one. Get off, Naruto growled out through gritted teeth. For some reason, the silver-haired vampire rubbed him the wrong way. Too stubborn though, but I do enjoy a goo. D challenged forward and bit into the bottom lip of the blonde, making him grunt in pain, before she stood and stepped back. Looking at her pinkett duplicate, Inner spoke with a smirk, I've done what you couldn't. Make sure neither of these two wenches do as they wish with him. Looking back at Naruto, Inner Mocha spoke sternly, as for you, keep Mocha happy. If she is harmed because of you, I'll kill you. That said and done, she lifted her fist back before driving it forward and into Naruto's skull. The world of Tsukuyomi went black as Naruto's vision faded. Ow! Naruto groaned as they all snapped from Tsukuyomi. He lost control after the real pain became unbearable. Glancing at Mocha's Rosario with a small amount of suspicion and anger, Naruto wondered what Mocha-san meant by making him their good one. Pushing that concern back for another time, Naruto looked at the three collapsed girls as he rubbed his mouth, which was rather sore. As I said, this is Shion-chan, Naruto repeated, looking at the Monstars and girls. She is the high priestess of Oni no Kuni and apparently the new assistant and apprentice to the headmaster. As she is 100% human, don't expect to see her often. She's human, Draco repeated with wide eyes before glancing at the headmaster with narrowed ones. I see. No, you don't, Draco, the headmaster replied with a smile as he stood to walk towards the two blondes. Crossing the distance with a casual walk, not only is she my apprentice and assistant, she is the mother of Naruto-kun's child. That got Mocha's, Tamao's, Kurumu's, Yukari's, and the rest of the Monstars' attention. The girls all glared at the priestess, earning a smug smirk in return, while the Monstars gaped at the blonde that was slamming his face into the wall. His reason for doing so being that he knew the headmaster told the girls about his child for his said headmaster's own amusement. Well, damn, Mac muttered, his eyes wide as he stared at the priestess. That motherfucker banged a priestess. Who'd have thunk it? Vern whispered as he scratched his head, our little gay bastard snagged the hottest ass, a human. Draco was shaking as he also tried to light another cigarette. His past encounters with babies developing a small fear for their crying. Blitz groaned as he realized if Sky ever discovered Naruto's kid, she'd want one of her own. Rawhead was passed out on the ground, blood pouring from his nostrils as he thought of the young woman and Naruto, dancing beneath the sheets. Yukari blinked a few times before squealing and leaping at Naruto, glomping onto his form and keeping him from abusing his face even further. Before Naruto could try and push the witch off, she squealed out, he's a DILF. Cross it off my bucket list, I snagged a DILF. The next day, after Naruto managed to move Shien and Hige into their hidden room and got a key for it in case of an emergency, there was a massive crowd in the hallways. There were distro, GHT faces and gleaming eyes throughout the crowd, but the crowd parted when two boys wearing green flak jackets shoved their way to the front, causing the gathered few to part and watch them with curiosity. The shorter one put his finger on the large poster before him and slowly moved it up. Yes, Naruto cried as he punched the air. Eyes went to the blonde's person, well, those that weren't already on him. Why was he cheering? Way ta go, Proby, Rawhead congratulated with a pat on the shoulder, ye ranked number 89 on the list. Just above Maiden. And speakin' of her, Naru-kun, Tamao, cried as she leapt at the beaming blonde, nearly knocking him over as she collided with him. Naruto stumbled forward as he instinctively wrapped his arms around her legs as she wrapped hers around his neck. The blonde's face flushed slightly as she pressed her assets into his back. Hey, Tamao-chan. He greeted with a grin, sorry about beating your score. The blue-haired mermaid smiled and gave him a peck on the cheek, driving him into a small stuttering mess, before she continued, you can make it up to me later. Rawhead rolled his eyes at the scene before him, the strong monster he'd gotten to know as a friend being turned into a stuttering mess by a simple kiss made him both jealous and annoyed, and turned to face the opposite direction. The boogeyman Scott grinned as he saw a familiar shade of pink and blue. Stepping back to fade out of their sight and allow the flirty mermaid to become their target, Rawhead softly chuckled out, and cue the entertainment, I wish I some popcorn. Ichino's Tamao-san. Get off away from Naruto-kun koi. The two girls cried as they approached. Tamao frowned and pouted at the two girls approaching before leaning down and whispering into her beau's ear, we'll talk later. Naruto shuddered at the lust-filled whisper he received from the blue-haired goddess before letting go of her legs and letting her slide off his back. As expected, he was pulled into a congratulatory suffocation hug by Kurumu. As he tried to repress the arousal from being shoved into two soft pillows, Naruto also found himself feeling lightheaded due to the lack of air. Oh my Koibito, I'm so proud of you, Kurumu exclaimed, earning Naruto many glares of envy from the observing males in the hallway. Rawhead wouldn't lie, he was one of them. How does he ignore Hat? The boogeyman asked himself with his envious gaze locked on the girl's two bouncing orbs that were suffocating his friend. I swear, something's wrong with, I am. Kurumu Kurono. Tamao and Mocha cried in outrage at the succubus. The shorter blue-haired girl stuck her tongue out at her frenemies before she was struck on the head by a falling pot, making her yowl and release the now gasping Naruto from her hold. Air, how I missed you, the blonde exclaimed as his tomo spun quickly as he reacquainted himself with oxygen. Rawhead barked out laughter as he went to help Mocha assist the blonde to stand. Kurumu was rubbing her head and glaring daggers at the young witch being thanked by the mermaid who had gotten higher than she thought on the testing list. Ye okay, pal? Rawhead asked with a smirk, ye seem to be blissfully sleeping. Oh hardy har, ya damn Scott, Naruto grumbled as he held his own head. Gah, as if I didn't have enough of a headache from being so obsessed with my scores. You okay, Naruto-kun? Need to go see Tsunade-san for some medicine? Mocha asked with concern in her green eyes. Naruto smiled at the girl and shook his head. Nah, he dismissed with a wave before looking at the list and gaping, whoa. Mocha-chan, you got 13. You must be really smart. The vampire blushed under the praise while her two adversaries for the blonde's heart scowled at her, for some reason. Kurumu more than Tamao. The two brunettes scowled even further when their newest foe walked through the halls, an air of aristocracy surrounding her and a minimal yokai-s ignature rolling off her and the young babe in her arms. The males of the hallways all found themselves dumbstruck by the fact the young mother was approaching their obstacle in taking the three freshman beauties for themselves. And the females were curious, all wondering what the newcomer could want from the blonde heartthrob. "There you are, Narukoi," Shion said with a small smile before holding the young Hige out to his father. The infant smiling toothlessly at the teen that looked like him. "Hige-chan needs some daddy time and Headmaster Senpai needs me for a meeting." "Ah, okay then Shion-chan." Naruto replied with a grin as he took his son from his first lover before smiling at the baby. "Hey buddy. How's my Sochi, huh?" Hige cooed happily, and the whole hallway cried out in shock, "What the fuck?" Naruto scowled and cradled his now crying son, who had burst into tears at the loud exclamation, happily noting the way his friends also scowled at their surrounding group, before turning and walking out of the hallway. Ra had followed the young father, which made him shiver in fear at the thought of being won from a single night, and HD by the four girls who rushed past him and began fawning over Naruto and Hige. The Scottish teen wasn't sure why girls, be them human or monster, were so obsessed with young fathers. A word Yukari exclaimed came to his mind and he chuckled. Then again, being a dad I'd love to fuck wouldn't be so bad, he mused aloud. Shion gave everyone she passed a dirty look as she walked in the opposite direction, being sure to note the way some girls were glaring at her in jealousy and some boys were inching away out of fear. The young priestess thought about how possessive males can be and how pure they like their mates, before she smiled. "Narut-kun mentioned that I haven't looked that different since Hige-chan," Shion thought as she entered the headmaster's office. The pale blonde beauty smirked as she thought of all the distraught looks he was getting from the female population as she walked away from Naruto. She frowned as she thought about the three girls chasing her hero before smirking once again. "Silly girls, Naruto-kun isn't attracted to what you are at face value. He wants to know the person that is hidden within." "Where's Tusen?" a clone of Naruto asked his son from the boy's baby seat. He had both hands over his face, and was keeping the month-old infant entertained with the peek-a-boo game while the real Naruto performed tree-hanging crunches. Hige giggled as the clone pulled his hands away and said, "Peek-a-boo." The original smiled at hearing his son's laughter and paused, dropped from his perch and walked over to his clone. Naruto dismissed his clone and picked the baby boy up from his seat, which was a hanged clone that also dismissed, cradling his young son carefully before tickling the boy's sensitive stomach. "You are a smelly boy," the blonde told his son, before taking a whiff of his own odor and sneezing from it. Then again, Tusen isn't as fresh as he thought he'd be. To the bathhouses then. Naru-kun is so cute when he plays with Hige-chan. Tamao cooed as she, Mocha, Kurumu and Yukari all relaxed in the girls' bath. The mermaid couldn't get enough of Naruto since she had laid eyes on his son. She wondered if it was due to the fact that the Tomoe boy she was chasing wasn't as pure as she thought, or if it was because he still had that aura of innocence that attracted her to him. "Yeah, but I'd wish he'd have had Hige-chan with me," Kurumu pouted profoundly, crossing her arms under her bust. "That Shion slut keeps smirking at me, and I know it's because she's seen his pen. Please can we not talk about this?" Mocha pleaded as her face turned another new shade of red. She was so jealous of not being Naruto's first and only, but talking about the anatomy of the very boy she had her eyes set on was stirring up some new emotions for the young vampire. Not to mention her inner self kept hinting at killing Shion for even going near the blonde. "You know it bugs you just as much as it annoys me. No one is to touch our mate aside from us." Mocha's inner self then declared with a growl, "I'm with the succubus on this one. Kill the priestess and claim him already. I've marked his yokai, but so have those other three. The priestess is just a concubine, so we have to bed him first." But Hige-chan is cute." "Mocha-chan." Yukari whined from her place next to the pinkett that was now fighting her own desires. The witch frowned at being ignored before perking up and looking at her other two friends. "Hey. Cow and Whale." The brunettes glowered at the names. "Where is the newspaper club going for the break? I remember Nekonome sensei mentioning something about a trip for getting good grades." I think she said something about the human world, Tamao mused, not noticing the way Yukari tensed at the mentioning of the larger realm, but we'll have to wait and see when we go to the meeting later tomorrow. Sounds fun, but back to Naru-kun and Hige-chan. You really have a one-track mind, Tamao, Kurumu muttered under her breath, shaking her head as she lightly washed her arm. Why are you so obsessed with him and his kid? She likes DILFs, Yukari stated as if talking to an imbecile, getting 3 confused looks from her friends, and a few curious ones from the other participants. Dad, I'd love to fuck, duh. Come on, everyone knows what a DILF is. Kasen mentioned DILFs to me once, Kurumu mumbled, tilting her head slightly in thought, before sighing, but I don't see the attraction. Hello. Tamao rapped her knuckles on her fellow brunette's head. Naru-kun is a daddy. You want him to give you your children, which won't happen because he'll be mine, don't you? Yeah, I'm going to ignore that comment by the way, Kurumu growled. Well, think about how Naru-kun takes care of Hige-chan, Tamao pointed out as she began rinsing her hair. He plays with him, changes him, feeds him. Do you see where I'm going? He's great with kids. Not to mention he's still our age, and this makes him prime mate material. Crap, I said that out loud. Look, the point is, DILFs are sexy. End of story. I'm with whale tits on this one, Yukari chimed in with an agreeing nod. Naruto-sensei's relationship with Hige-chan is too cute. Stop calling me that, Tamao pouted, puffing her cheeks childishly as she cupped her twins. They're nice and average, not immense like Kurono's. Because you suffocate him, Mocha grumbled before frowning and looking at herself. I don't see what the attraction is, they're just lumps of flesh. Ah, but they're beautiful lumps of flesh, Mocha-chan, Yukari exclaimed, hugging the Pinkett and causing her to shriek in surprise. Kurumu and Tamao laughed at the Pinkett's misfortune but paused when they heard a new voice. I hope that Erogene gave us the right direction, Sochi, a confused Tomo-eyed blonde mused, as he looked at his nude son and strolled into the bathhouse without looking up. The second he did, he froze, as did all the girls staring in his direction. Some of them that he knew, Mocha, Tamao, Kurumu, and Yukari, along with others that he knew in passing, were blushing up a storm and unsure of what to think, while others were openly gaping at his causal entrance. When Naruto spoke, it was the one thing he could think of. I'm going to kill that son of a bitch. Pervert, was a group cry as a few girls suddenly appeared, clad in towels, before him. He yelped in fear and held his right hand out, closing his eyes, which was pointless as he already recorded everything he had seen with his eyes, and shouting, "Wait! I have a child. Don't hurt me." The attackers stopped, much to his and a watching werewolf's surprise, before staring at the baby and cooing collectively, all staring at him adoringly. At that moment, Hige decided to make his unease known by grunting and kicking in his father's arms. One of his kicks managed to hit the small fold keeping the towel around the blonde freshman's waist. The towel fell, and the eyes of the many girls in the room followed, before looking back at the teen's groin. Naruto opened one eye and looked around, noticing a gleam in the girls' eyes as they stared at him. He felt a draft and blushed heavily before slowly backing away, moving Hige to his other arm and softly saying, "Hige, we are in big, big trouble." Kurumu shot up, her eyes narrowed in determination and her mouth salivating at the size of Naruto's third leg, and rushed at the blonde slowly backing away. One word came from her mouth, a word soon to be heard all throughout the school for the next few hours: mine. Fuck me, Naruto whimpered as he jumped back, making his son laugh at the sudden movement, and getting the other girls to wake from their drooling stupor. Mine, was the collective roar of the girls staring at him. Even Yukari and Mocha, who he was shocky to see, cried out with lust in their eyes. Yane, Naruto cried out, vanishing in a swirl of leaves back to his dorm room. This caused the girls to all turn on one another, creating a large cat fig that would be heard throughout the school grounds, and later stopped by the arrival of a fetist pervert. Watching all of this would be seen coming and going from the guidance counselor's office for the next week for multiple reasons, mostly for sheer jealousy in the size of one's intimate areas. Naruto laughed as he washed Hige's face while the baby splashed in the sink. He managed to evade the girls and their sudden lust. which he had Vern looking into, but found himself stuck in his room for the rest of the night. The blonde Tomo-eyed ninja had laughed when he heard Rawhead had found the perverted photographer, Jine, lying on his back with wide eyes and horror on his face. Uzumaki Naruto wasn't one to take a prank lying down, so with help from Rawhead, the blonde now had a picture to go with his next article that would undoubtedly ruin his tormentor's status with the ladies. "Ack, you little kitling," Naruto teased, mocking his tenant and tickling his giggling son. When he was splashed, "Look at what you did. You got Tucson all wet." "I think Tucson looks better wet," a voice purred from behind him. Naruto froze and quickly swung his head around, startled to see Lust staring at him intently. While it was usually normal to see his own face while in the bathroom, it was not normal to see his own face with purple eyes, lips and a obviously lustful glare locked on his shirtless status. Sighing in relief, Naruto smiled at the possessed clone. "Hey there," the blonde said as he turned back to his splashing son, "Shion-chan is buried in paperwork from the headmaster, so you'd have to come back later if you want to talk to Hiroi." "Hige, don't throw the duck at Tucson." The babe giggled at his father's silly face of mock anger, making Lust smirk in the doorway. "She wa tched," the blonde as he washed his son and smirked before vanishing in a flash of violet flames. Her last thoughts before leaving were, "Another time, Uzumaki, I'll get my end another time." The next day, classes had come and gone quickly. Many students rushing to their respective clubs. The Monstars had met the night before, mostly for Draco to chastise Naruto for starting a catfight. Vern, Rawhead, and Mac all congratulated him for doing so later and decided to go off with their respective cover clubs for the break. Naruto and Rawhead, who had transferred to the newspaper club immediately after the talent show, were to watch over Yukari and make sure that none of the girls do anything to compromise their school's existence. Nekonome smiled at the gathered teens as she stood before the bus. Naruto locking a glare on the bus driver, before looking around and counting heads. Sendo-san and Kurono-san are missing. "There they are," Rawhead pointed out, his finger locking on the arguing duo. Kurumu was dragging the young witch by her wrist and had a scowl on her face while Yukari was dropping pot after pot on the brunette's head. "I said let me go," Yukari cried in anger, "stupid cow tit whore. Shut up flat chest." Kurumu shot back. Naruto rubbed his temples and shunshined over to their position, gripping both of their shoulders and shunshining them to the bus. Ignoring their now nauseous state, Naruto looked expectantly at his club's teacher. "Can we leave now, sensei?" Naruto asked through a groan. "Hige-chan kept me up all night and Shion-chan didn't come to get him until 2 a.m., he was really sad about something." Nekonome frowned at the reminder of her boss's new apprentice's relationship with one of her top students. She didn't approve of their young parenthood, but tried to do what she could to help make the morning easier for Naruto. With a smile to the exhausted blonde, the Catwoman stepped to the side and gestured to the bus. "Of course, Naruto-kun. It's a bit of a trip, but you could probably get a short nap in. Just don't fall asleep too long under the sun. You could burn yourself." The blonde nodded and trudged onto the vehicle with a grunt of acknowledgement to the driver. The man smirked back at the teen and purposely released the brake so the bus would shift forward slightly, causing Naruto to stumble and fall into a leather seat. The tomo-eyed blonde sat up and glared at the back of the sniggering driver's head before resuming his trudging journey to the back of the bus. Plopping down in a seat, Naruto grunted again when his forehead smacked against the glass of the bus, recalling his first day at Yokai with a grim smile. It hadn't been that long ago that he was merely trying to become Hokage and bring Sasuke back to Konoha. Now the blonde was simply trying to do his village proud and return smarter and stronger to protect it from Madara. He thought back to the toads and frowned, knowing he would have to accept their offer soon. "I'll summon Kichi or Tatsu when we get to this human world," the blonde thought as he felt one of the four girls sit next to him. From the smell of tomatoes entering his nostrils, Naruto looked with not much surprise to see a content mocha resting against his shoulder. The blonde smiled and looked back out the window, his mind going to other times. Mocha, however, was simply glad that the other girls were too intimidated by Rawhead's subtle threat of be quiet or else, to stop her from getting the spot next to Naruto. She felt the hard and slightly cushioned muscle of his shoulder shift slightly under her head before she closed her eyes and smiled. The image of the day before came to mind and a blush came over the pinket's face as she opened one eye to glance at the blonde's crotch. He was snoozing softly and facing out the window, so she was sure he wouldn't catch her quick glance. Naruto-kun, if only I knew how to get your attention locked on me and me alone, the young vampire thought with a blush as her more perverted side rose once again. I wonder if your true form is behind your endowment. Naruto yawned as the bus came to a stop with a hiss. Shizuka smiled back. K at the club as the bus driver opened the door. All right, we're here in the human world. I expect you all to be on your best behavior and stay hidden. This made the entire group all blink in confusion. On before Yukari stood and raised her hand, but, Nekonome-sensei, aren't you and bus driver-san going to go with us? The teacher smiled and her tail wagged slightly at the question. Bus dry. Veer-san and I are going to be supervising, later on. Oh, just tell the last Avenue a date with the driver so we can get off the damn bus. Rawhead exclaimed with a smirk, making the woman's face add up as the glowing teeth of the driver curled into a smile at the teen through the mirror, winking back at him and making Rawhead laugh. The boogeyman stood and stretched, glancing over at the still sleeping Mocha and the stretching Naruto. The blonde teen rolled his neck before looking at the girl using his shoulder as a makeshift pillow. Smiling softly, Naruto shook his head before hooking his left arm under her legs and using her right arm to cradle her as he stood. Mocha let out a content sigh as she continued to sleep, snuggling into her new position by pushing her head into his chest. Hitomo-eyed blonde smiled sheepishly at his teacher, not noticing the envious glares the two brunettes on the bus were giving the pinket in his arms. Tamao and Kurumu muttered angrily under their breath, making Rawhead shake his head in amusement, following his friend as he stepped off the bus at a human bus stop. Kurumu and Tamao followed his example, Yukari being hesitant to do so before she eventually rushed after her friends. After getting their bags packed for the week away from the school, Naruto groaned as the bus shot off down the road, nearly ending the innocent life of an old lady trying to cross the street. How the hell does he have a license? Ya got me onto one, the Scot replied with a shrug as he crouched down to pick up a few bags. The girls grabbed what backpacks and small bags they brought, leaving Naruto's duffel to Rawhead as well as Mocha's suitcase. Naru-kun, Tamao whined, latching onto his left arm, making sure not to risk the blonde dropping her pink-haired frenemy. Why are you carrying Mocha? Pretty tired, why should I wake her up? Naruto countered with a small smile, I'll wake her up as soon as we check into the hotel Nekonome-sensei reserved rooms for us at. Fine. But I want a turn, Tamao whined, getting an amused chuckle from her mate-to-be. She released his arm before grinning slyly at him, and I still want that payback for taking my slot on the grading list. Naru-kun, I have a distinct feeling my Gamma-chan is going to be lighter later tonight, thought the blonde with a frown before smiling again at the mermaid. Okay, Tamao-chan. I'll make it up to you later. Quote, yes, Tamao thought with a fist pump, her inner chibi self going into a happy dance. Step 1 in Operation Seducing Naruto-kun is a success. Take that, Akashiya and Kurono. Kurumu scowled as she saw one of her foes in acquiring Naruto's heart do a fist pump. She crossed her arms under her large chest and pouted before grinning deviously. With a plan in mind for the next day, the blue-haired succubus giggled evilly and rubbed her hands together, causing Naruto to involuntarily shudder. With a heavy sigh, the blonde Jinchuriki thought, Sasuke, I feel your pain. Heaven only knows how you managed to deal with Sakura and Ino-san every damn day. With another sigh, he turned into the nearby hotel, thanking Rawhead with a nod. Stopping in front of the clerk, Naruto asked, 3 rooms for Nekonome's newspaper club. Yes, there are only 2 family rooms reserved. Naruto frowned at the statement, but, I could get a different room set up if you let me carry your baggage. The clerk eyed Mocha lecherously and Naruto's eyes narrowed. He looked at Rawhead, who grinned as he dropped the bags he was carrying before taking Mocha from his friend. arms, said Pinkett whimpered in dismay as she unconsciously noticed the change in her pillow's comfort capabilities and then looked back at the clerk. Grabbing the tie that was done as neatly as possible in his right hand. Naruto turned around, pulling the clerk over the desk, consequently over his shoulder, and slammed the man on his back. Standing on his captive's shoulder with his right hand still pulling at the tie around his neck and tightening the article of clothing around the man's throat, Naruto snarled, "You're gonna give us our room keys, or I'm going to beat you until your bruises with bruises have bruises. Do you understand me?" "URG, yeah, why yeah I understand." The man yelped as Naruto drove his foot harder into the man's chest, his heel barely allowing the necessary minimum in order for the man to continue breathing. Releasing his tie, Naruto stepped off the man and took the waking Mocha from the boogeyman's arms. As soon as she started to open her eyes, Naruto and Rawhead were leading the rest of the girls to their rooms, a now shivering clerk standing behind a counter. As soon as she realized where she was, the young vampire smiled and snuggled back into her pillow, allowing her green eyes to shut in bliss. Her peace was short-lived as she was soon contacted once again by her other self. "Well, it's about time you made a move to claim our mate." The pink-haired girl blushed and twisted her face into Naruto's shoulder before mentally replying to her inner self with, "Shut up, Naruto-kun is so warm, and firm, and cozy, sigh I could learn to love this." "Now you're just bragging, get him into bed and get the Rosario off." "I'll do what you can't if I must," the more assertive consciousness demanded. Mocha's eyes snapped open and her face turned 10 shades darker than it already was. But as if her own other persona's order wasn't enough, she woke up staring into the eyes that she dreamt about each night. Emerald green stared with embarrassment into a pair of glistening amused ocean blues, the black tomo swirling slowly around his pupil like a pinwheel, further drawing Mocha's attention in with their orbit. The young vampire momentarily sized the same eyes staring down at her lovingly as the strong blonde teen took her most prized lock. "Well, if it isn't Sleeping Beauty." Naruto's joking voice snapped Mocha from her perverted daydream, putting Hinata's blush to shame as her embarrassment rose to even higher levels. Still not knowing what the vampire was daydreaming about, Naruto continued with, "We got our rooms. I'd bunk you with Yukari. But I'm pretty sure she'd you." The young witch whined at that joke, and the other three present giggled as Naruto smirked back at the brunette girl that was pouting. With his smirk still on his face, Naruto continued, "Don't act as if you wouldn't try it. You little arrow loli, you." Shaking his head as Yukari childishly turned away, the blonde continued with, "And seeing Yukari and Kurumu don't ever seem to get along, you're going to bunk with our sexy succubus, if that's okay with you." Ignoring the adjective he used to describe Kurumu, Mocha looked at the short-haired girl with a small frown, which was received in response, before looking back at the blonde that was putting her feet back on the ground. With a whine of disapproval, Mocha stood on her own, wobbling momentarily due to the noodle legs she had from being carried for so long, before walking over to Kurumu and pulling the girl away from the group. Arching a brow at the strange silent treatment Mocha was giving him, Naruto shrugged before turning back to an expectant Tamao. "That leaves you and Yukari while Rawhead and I get the mate's room, and no, it's not a honeymoon room so we're not switching," he quickly added, making both girls release whines of displeasure. Giving a sigh once again, Naruto looked at Rawhead and asked, "Why did I take the club president role again?" Not," the Scot said, chuckling as he followed his blonde friend back to the main hall, getting the bags that Rawhead and the girls sans Mocha left behind. After giving a mock-angry glare that made the bellhop shit his pants, Rawhead continued, Girls voted ye the position. I demand a re-election." Naruto groaned as he grabbed the duffel bag he knew was his. "I'm going to die, a week being in charge of 3, scratch that. 4 hormonal-driven girls while our teacher goes off to bed the bus driver who I'm sure I've seen around the school somewhere, and my only accomplice is going to keep trying to convert me to my godfather's side. So, to sum it up, fucked up the ass." Rawhead cheerfully exclaimed, clapping the depressed blonde on the shoulder as they grabbed the bags, "But no, fret. I brought ye the rubbers, if ya catch me drift." Someone, shoot me, whined our hero. His Scottish accomplice simply laughed harder as they began carrying the bags to their designated rooms. Kurumu crossed her arms and glared at Mocha. For no reason whatsoever, the vampire grabbed her by the arms, dragged her away from her destined one, and shoved her into the nearest girls' restroom. Now, Umu had been on cloud 9 for the past few minutes due to something she had overheard Naruto call her sexy, but still, it doesn't allow anyone to grab her and drag her to an enclosed space, unless Naruto was that someone. What do you want, Mocha? Kurumu asked with a frown as she stared at the still frowning Mocha, come to gloat about how nice it was to sleep in my destined one's arms. Her eyes flashing red, Mocha bared her fangs and momentarily directed her yokai. Although limited, it was still impressively intense, at her roommate before speaking. Firstly, I'm going to ignore that claim. Kurumu smirked and went to the sink, staring at herself in the mirror and fixing her slightly disarrayed hair. Mocha ignored the blow off the brunette had given her and continued, secondly, I know I don't like you and I'm certain you don't exactly see me as BFF of the year. Whatever gave you that impression? Kurumu sarcastically replied. Mocha walked over to the sink adjacent to her roommate and looked into Kurumu's eyes. Her normally emerald green being a ruby red and making the succubus yelp in surprise. I will warn you now, Kurono Kurumu, Mocha growled. They locked eyes via the mirror. If you attempt to hurt me in an effort to eliminate the competition, I will call off our truce. Am I understood? Narrowing her eyes, Kurumu looked back into the mirror. You think I'm that shallow? Yes. Oh, bite me, bloodsucker. Tamao bounced gleefully around her and Yukari's room. The young witch was staring at her with concern. Eventually, the preteen witch broke her silence and asked, okay, why are you so happy? Tamao turned to Yukari and momentarily paused before she smiled. Well, I guess telling you would be okay. It's not like you're a major threat, pain. Yukari scowled. The words before her childlike curiosity got the best of her and she gestured for the mermaid to continue. Tamao sighed wistfully and began putting her clothes away, pausing as she set aside a blue blouse and red running shorts for some reason. I've got a date with Naru-kun, the love-stricken girl sighed out. Yukari blinked once, then twice, and then a third time before using a room-silencing spell she had learned a long time ago. Once the spell was up, the young girl exclaimed loudly, what? With owlish eyes due to her roommate's scream, Tamao blinked before saying, wow. A moment later, Yukari was running back and forth across the room in a frantic pacing manner, her hands on her head as she began worriedly exclaiming, this is horrible. How will I get Naruto Sensei and Mocha-chan to agree to a threesome if they aren't dating? How can I get the opportunity to have a foursome with Shion-san if she and Mocha-chan never agree to share Naruto-sensei? My plans are ruined. ICA&T kill you because that will make Naruto-sensei mad at me. It's hopeless. Tamao frowned at Yukari's words, muttering to herself, don't act happy for me or nothing. Why should I be happy for you? The young witch asked with tears running down her face. The tears vanished as she suddenly realized something. Wait, how did you get Naruto-sensei to agree to a date? Tamao blushed and rubbed her arm sheepishly. Well, I kind of haven't asked him out yet, but he owes me and you're using his never leave a debt promise unpaid broken against him. Yukari accused, making Tamao blink in confusion. The young witch sighed and shook her head. Geez, for an avid wannabe. Mocha-chan, you really don't know Naruto-sensei, do you? Oh, and Mocha knows more about him than I do. Tamao asked with a frown before smirking. I bet she doesn't even know what type of monster Naru-kun is. Well, duh. No one, save for Draco-senpai, Blitz-ni-kun and the headmaster, knows his species, Yukari deadpanned. Her eyes widening as Tamao's smirk grew. You know. How do you know? That, my young friend, is a secret passed from mother to daughter, Tamao teased, tapping the young witch on the nose. When a pan fell on her head, Tamao yelped and jumped back. She looked at Yukari, who was tapping her foot impatiently, before smirking again and saying, oh, so I'm supposed to tell you, At Yukari's nod, the mermaid continued with a bored tone as she examined her nails, well fine then. It really isn't fun having Naru-kun knowing all our identities but none of us knowing his. I'll tell you what he is. But you have to let me have this one date with Naru-kun uninterrupted. Yeah, well, what if you try to R him again? Yukari countered, having been told the story when Tamao was under her tutelage for the exam. The Maiden of the Water blushed and looked at her feet, interlacing her hands behind her back and muttering, I said I was sorry. Fine, deal. Yukari relented, making the mermaid grin widely before the witch continued with, on one condition. Damn, so close, thought the brunette as she forced a sweet smile and asked, what's the condition? If you try to R him, I get to int. Urfer and you have to tell me what type of monster he is. If you agree not to interfere unless that happens. Tamao instantly countered, otherwise, I get another date and I don't have to tell you jack shit. Fine, Yukari agreed. Fine, fine. I feel a disturbance in the force, Naruto quietly mused, sitting up from his spot lying on the couch in his and Rawhead's room. The Scot was watching television as he sat in the lounge chair directly across from the TV, flicking through every channel, before settling on the History Channel. The Loch Ness Monster is rumored to live at the bottom of Loch Ness, the announcer droned, making Naruto roll his eyes at the show. The blonde resumed lounging on the couch before slowly drifting to sleep once again. Memories of his friend's deceased Uchiha were surfacing via his dreams again. Either Sasuke had very good repressing skills, or Orochimaru was not the child molester everyone thought he was. Naruto was leaning towards the former. Why did Itachi go nuts and kill Sasuke's clan, mentally scar his brother, and then sign up with Akatsuki? It doesn't add up, thought the confused blonde. He hadn't thought of Sasuke since the incident at the hospital after the mission to capture Sasori's informant, which turned out to be Orochimaru's right-hand ass toy, Kabuto. Now, having the mental capabilities he did, it took time for Naruto to organize his former teammates' memories, and even longer to accurately untangle the mess that was Itachi's Tsukuyomi. Having done that, Naruto was using his point of view to try to understand why Itachi didn't just carve Sasuke up and left the young Uchiha to grow up with nothing but hatred. The blonde sat up again, however this time it was due to the sudden knocking at the room door, jarring him from his musings. Pushing the woes over Sasuke's brother's strange post-massacre actions to the back of his mind, Naruto stood and went to the door, ignoring Rawhead's annoyed grunt when he crossed in front of the television. Naruto opened the door and blinked at what he saw as his mind shut down, unlocking the subconscious locks on his jaw and making them fall to the ground while his eyes widened slightly. Tamao stood before him in the outfit she had set aside earlier, intending to get her beau's attention, but now it was just hard not to stare at her with the way she was dressed. Blue blouse was buttoned up at only 3 of the upper middle buttons, the bottom being tied together and allowing her toned stomach to see the world, and the top buttons being left undone to allow a good view of her cleavage. Her mid-thigh red running shorts were tight and showed off her thighs and ass quite nicely. The dressing for warm weather wasn't surprising to Naruto. As a mermaid, she must be rather used to cold water or the moisture in the air. It explains her school uniform anyway. Well, Naru-kun, Tamao purred, posing slightly for him and making the blonde subconsciously memorize the sight before him with his eyes. Abilities, do I look ready to hit the town or what? Hit the town. Naruto managed to stutter out once his brain rebooted. What do you mean, hit the town? Silly, Tamao giggled, lightly shoving him in the shoulder. You owe me, remember? Well, I'm cashing in. You're taking me out on a date. I am, Naruto asked, blinking with confusion in his eyes. Tamao nodded and turned the blonde around, pushing him back into the hotel room. Okay, Naruto blankly replied before shaking the dazed expression off his face and looking at Rawhead, who was snickering at his place in the lazy boy chair. With a confused tone of voice, Naruto asked, did she just hypnotize me? Hypnotize, I am, he asked. Rawhead sniggered out with a shake of his head. Nay. Aiden has just activated get laid mode, without ye knowin' it. Get laid mode, Naruto repeated. Do I want to know? What is it? Dress like a man whore. Naruto asked as he turned around and pulled his shirt off. So Rawhead wouldn't tease him about stripping jokes, before reaching into his duffel bag and pulling an orange V-neck shirt Jiraiya had talked him into getting once. Well, yeah, but ye also, avenue ta keep da woman happy. Rawhead said, popping the lid off with a push of his thumb, basically, hat she wants. Ye, avenue 4 minutes left, get goin' man. Whore, oh go get fucked. Naruto groaned as he grabbed Gamma-chan and walked out the door with a room key in his hand. Instantly, Tamao latched onto his arm and hugged it between her bosom, smiling up at the shocked blonde. Come on, I want to see the city before dark. The brunette eagerly exclaimed before dragging the boy away to get her date started. What Naruto didn't see was the small brown-haired girl following after them, her trusty wand in hand in case of a deal-breaking incident. It would be a day Naruto would never forget. So, Tamao-chan, what do you wanna do exactly? Naruto asked cautiously as they walked down the sidewalk. Could ya blame him, though? Most of the times that he's alone with the mermaid, she'd get him extremely aroused, cause a mental debate between himself and his instincts over whether to act on his libido. But then when the instincts would win out, an interruption would occur and usually he'd end up getting hurt. Well, how's a movie sound, Naru-kun? Tamao asked as she looked up at her mate to be with a smile. She hadn't thought of what they would do, especially once Yukari's trailing came to the front of the mermaid's mind, but she spotted the cinema's large sign and made a snap decision. On the plus side, if the movie blows, she could start a make-out session and Yukari wouldn't be able to notice without sitting right behind them or next to them. Naruto mused over the pros and cons of seeing a movie with Tamao before shrugging. He did owe the girl some sort of entertainment, as he promised to make up for taking her spot. And Uzumaki Naruto never goes back on his word. Naruto's Tomoed blue eyes turned to the mermaid's own cyan ones before they shut as he smiled. Sure, why not? Been a while since I saw a movie. What genre of movies do you like, Naru-kun? Tamao asked curiously as they neared the theater. I like romantic comedies and thrillers. Well, normally I'd say action, but the last time I saw one of those, I was dragged off by Kakashi-sensei. Saved a princess that was an actress in the film series, stopped her uncle from taking over the world and helped Koyuki Hime become the daimyo of Yuki no Kuni, the blonde absent-mindedly answered B. For his eyes widened at his immense slip-up. Looking quickly at his slack-jawed date for the evening, cursing at himself for screwing up after doing well at hiding himself. Thinking quickly, Naruto scratched his head sheepishly and tried to play his words off as a dream. Oh, wait, that was the dream I had after I saw that movie, heh. Tamao was almost inclined to believe his idiocy. Almost. The blue-haired girl smirked at her nervous bow and pulled him down, whispering in his ear, nice try, Shinobi-kun, but unlike Akashiya and Kurono, I've known about your true side for a while now. Well, ain't this a bitch? Naruto thought before hardening his gaze. I could erase your memory right now and replace it if I so wished. Tamao giggled and stroked the top right whisker mark. Makin. Gee, the blonde tense before shuddering in pleasure. Once she was sure he was drifting off into pleasure, the mermaid whispered again, you're so sexy when you act serious, Naru-kun, perhaps you'll follow through with the promise. But what if my being a mermaid messes with your magic? Jutsu, the dazed blonde muttered out as his date continued to stroke his marks. Genjutsu, taijutsu, ninjutsu, not magic. Well, that's good to know, Tamao unsurely replied before ceasing her ministrations and wrapping her arms back around his left arm. As she pulled the slowly recovering blonde towards the cinema, the mermaid said in a normal tone. Enough about all that, though. Let's go choose a movie. Meanwhile, back at the hotel, a rather annoyed Pinkett went to her crush's hotel room. She and Mew had been arguing for the past 15 minutes over who would get what bed. Mocha wanted the one nearest to the door in case she was feeling hungry and wanted to get Naruto without waking Kurumu, but the succubus was adamant about keeping the vampire away from the blonde next door. They came to an agreement, admitted reluctantly, and now they share the bed near the door. However, Kurumu then claimed the shower, locking her out of the bathroom. And now Mocha had to use the toiletries. She tried getting in, but Kurumu was ignoring her and grunting rather rudely in response to her pleas. The bub, legum-haired vampire thought she heard an, "Oh Naruto," come from behind the door, but shrugged the notion away as she went to ask Tamao and Yukari if she could use their bathroom, but no one answered. Which leads us to the present, where a cross-legged Mocha knocked, or rather, banged, on the door in hopes of her crush letting her use the restroom. "Naruto-kun, please open the door," Mocha pleaded as she pounded on the door, each strike getting stronger and forcing a splintering web of cracks to form. Before the vampire's knocking could destroy the poor wood, a yawning boogeyman pulled the door open. Rubbing his eye as he stood before his fellow freshman in just a pair of jeans. Scratching his head, the tired Scot widened his eyes when he saw Mocha standing in front of him. "Huh, well, if it ain't gorgeous Akashiya Mocha," Rawhead said with a grin. "Wha can I do for ya?" "Rawhead-san, can I talk to Naruto-kun, please?" Mocha asked with a blush, not wanting to explain her embarrassing situation to her crush's roommate. Unfortunately, she wasn't expecting this for an answer. "Well, I'd get the ass fare ya, but he ain't here. The maiden took him out on a date." Mocha's world froze as soon as she heard those words. She remained frozen for a good 5 minutes, the Scottish boogeyman using the time attempting to wake her up. After getting her attention, Rawhead jumped back and fear as yokai surged from the vampire's body due to her rage. Locking her eyes on the unfortunate boogeyman before her, the yokai flaring pink-haired vampire said only one thing. "Tamao did what?" Naruto paused in mid-step, causing his date to look up at him in confusion, before looking back towards the hotel and quietly muttering, "I have the strangest feeling we're going to be attacked when we get back." "Come on, Naru-kun," Tamao urged, getting her date's attention back on her. "We have to pick a movie before we go in." Okay, Tamao-chan," replied the blonde as he grinned, and they resumed their walk to the theater. Looking up and examining the choices, Naruto hummed before noting a title that stuck out to him. Looking at Tamao for confirmation, the Tomo-eyed shinobi asked, "Up for an action flick?" "Well, if it's going to be an action flick, can we choose that one?" The blue-haired mermaid asked as she pointed at a title, the same that Naruto had seen before. The blonde grinned and looked at her. "You're not just trying to get on my good side, are you?" Naruto asked jokingly, chuckling when her face flushed and she looked at her feet in embarrassment. The blonde waved her reaction off with a smile before approaching the booth and speaking to the person behind the glass through a speaker. "Hi, 2 for the Forbidden Kingdom." "That'll be 1,900 yen, was the barely coherent reply. Naruto gaped at the price before pulling his wallet out, getting a girlish giggle of adoring from his date at his wallet's shape, and paying the obscene amount before retrieving the ticket stubs from the man behind the glass. "Thank you, enjoy the show." Quote, "Yeah, I'd better enjoy the show," Naruto grumbled as he fished through his wallet, counting the bills that remained before sighing in relief and thinking, "Oh yeah. Thank Kami I won those card games against the guys, otherwise, I'd be flat broke by the end of this film." "Come on, Naru-kun," Tamao said as she looped her arm through his as he pocketed Gama-chan. "Let's get some snacks." She didn't see the blonde release tears at the thought of losing more money. "What do you mean I can't have the tickets?" Yukari asked with a growl as she stood before the ticket counter. "Why another adult? Sorry, but that's the rules. This is ridiculous, the film is PG-13. "Yes, but you can't be older than 8. I'm 10. That's still not 13. Oggig. 1,500 yen for a large bowl of popcorn and 2 large drinks. I think this place just redeemed itself, Tamao-chan," Naruto said with a grin as he placed the popcorn between their seats and set his cup in its holder. He had managed to secure the last 2 seats in the middle of the front row in the second set of seats, the seats behind the metal bar, and sat Tamao down before sitting down next to her. Immediately, she shifted the popcorn to her lap and pulled Naruto's left arm over her shoulders, making the blonde shinobi gape at her bold move. "Don't give me that look." Tamao giggled out, "Like Kurono or Akashiya wouldn't do this. Hell, I bet even Shion-san has done this to you before." "Well, okay, yeah, I see your point," Naruto conceded with a sigh before the lights dimmed and the movie previews started. "Shish. Movie's starting." 1 hour and a half later, the two walked out of the theater with hands interlocked, the blonde explaining how possible some of those stunts were. I swear, Jet Li and Jackie Chan have got to be shinobi. Naruto exclaimed to his amused date, they fight almost as well as Bushy Brows and Bushy Brows Sensei. Bushy Brows and Bushy Brows Sensei. Tamao repeated with an arched brow, who are they, Naruto-kun? Oh, Bushy Brows and his sensei are the best taijutsu warriors in my village, Naruto explained. In fact, I think only Kakashi-sensei. Tsunade Bachan, and Ero Gigi, crap. The blonde stopped walking as he remembered that he promised to himself that he'd contact Fukasaku. Quickly glancing around, Naruto then pulled Tamao with him as they ducked into an alleyway, running through the narrow pathway into an abandoned lot. Whilst the brunette tried to regain her bearings after her date had dragged her to said lot, the Tomo-eyed blonde bit his thumb and performed several hand seals before slamming his hand on the ground. Kuchio's no jutsu, Naruto exclaimed just before the area surrounding his palm was engulfed in smoke. Sitting before him in a relaxed manner was the next in line for the Gamma Oyabun title, Gamakichi. The red-skinned toad coughed as he waved the smoke away before G. Reading his friend and brother, with an affectionate, "Sup, bro." "Hey Kichi," Naruto greeted in return, but was cut off by his blue-haired date's sudden squeal. "He's so cute," Tamao gushed as she wrapped her arms around the small horse-sized toad's neck, making him gag in surprise. "Oh, Naru-kun, what's his name?" Naruto blinked disbelievingly several times while Gamakichi begged for help with a raspy voice. Snapping from his stunned expression, the blonde then said, right, Tamao-chan, this is Gamakichi. Kichi, meet Tamao-chan. Tamao-chan, Kichi needs air. Oh, sorry, Tamao Apollo, gizzed after releasing the now heavily breathing toad. Both males looked at her for an explanation, and she simply replied, what? I like froggies. Oi, I'm a toad. The insulted heir to the Gamma Oyab. Unline cried before looking at the blonde, I thought you had the vampire and big-chested girl, bro. What's with psycho chokes a lot? Later, Kichi, okay. Naruto sighed as he rubbed his forehead, already regretting summoning his friend. Look, just tell me what to do in order to summon Fukasaku. Last time I saw him, he reverse summoned me. Oh, is that all? The toad replied with a smirk, just put all the chakra you can into the summoning technique, more than Pop's summoning tribute, okay. Naruto nodded his understanding and Kichi dismissed himself. Cracking his knuckles, Naruto looked at Tamao and, thinking of the perfect prank, said, you may want to step back, Tamao-chan. The toads can get big, real big. Apparently so can their summoners, the mermaid thought with a perverted grin as her eyes drifted to the blonde's crotch for the briefest of moments. The mermaid nodded her understanding and backed up to the wall, bracing herself against it as Naruto bit his thumb and began the technique again. Kuchio's no jutsu, the blonde exclaimed as he slammed his hand on the ground. A large amount of smoke and dust kicked up, causing Naruto to shield his face before smirking secretively. Before him, the old Yoda-like toad sat with his staff in his right hand, looking at the blonde with a smile. Ah, hello there, Naru-chan. The old toad greeted with a smile before, like with Gamakichi. Tamao suddenly appeared and glomped him. The old toad gasped desperately for air before glancing at his apparent student, who was roaring with laughter. Oh man, this is too much. Naruto guffawed out. That's what you get for reverse summoning me out of the blue, old toad. Little, Gaki, Fukasaku choked out. 15 minutes later, too long for the toad, Naruto recovered from his logi. Ingfitten told Tamao to release the nearly unconscious elder. Tamao blushed heavily and turned away, keeping an ear locked on the conversation however. So, have ye decided to start training, Naru-chan? Fukasaku asked with an arched brow. Not even Jiraiya-chan asked for training at this young of an age. His eyes watering at the thought of his godfather, Naruto looked away with a smile. Yeah. Well, can't be the best if I don't pass Ero Sennin. Fukasaku laughed in response. Aye, that's true. So, when shall ye begin the training? Next week, Naruto confirmed. That's when the school allows students to return home for winter holidays. I'll be bringing Xian-chan and Hige-chan with me, if that's alright. Oh ho. Get to meet the priestess and the next Gamakuzuha, Fukasaku asked with a chuckle before nodding. Family is important to us. They are welcome, so long as they keep out of the training. I understand, Naruto said before glancing at Tamao. I have to go, Fukasaku-sensei. Say no more. I know how it is, Naru-chan, the toad replied with a smirk, be sure to use protection. Hige-chan is too young to be an older brother, no. What? You perverted old toad, Naruto cried in embarrassment as the toad elder summoned himself back to Mt. Myoboku, we're not even that close yet. Ah, but we can be, Naru-kun. Tamao exclaimed as she leapt onto his back and bit his earlobe. Getting a strangled moan from the blonde teen, just you and me, tonight could be the best night of our lives if you want. Ichinos, Yukari exclaimed, skidding into the air. Just as Naruto was about to politely decline, you know our deal. I was joking, you little brat. Tamao countered with a tick mark on her head before grinning as disbelief was on the witch's face. And seeing as you decided to interrupt my date with Naruto-kun. No way, you were trying to get in his pants, I know it. Yukari screamed with a glare. The two girls began shouting and verbally warring with each other. Yukari fought dirty, bringing the older girl to tears as she reminded the mermaid of her attempt to devour the blonde. Naruto, meanwhile, watched with confusion on his face. He blonde waited a few moments before intervening, stepping forward from his position as he held his hands in the international, time out, gesture, whoa. Both of you need to calm down. Yukari, just what the hell are you doing out here following us? Smiling proudly at her duty, Yukari replied, I'm here to make sure that Fish Girl doesn't take advantage of you. I would never do that to Naru-kun. Tamao defended herself as she looked at the slack-jawed boy. I said I'd never do that again, I promised. I love you Naru-kun, I wouldn't make you do that. Whoa, settle down, Naruto said, putting his hand on Tamao's shoulder and pulling her in for a hug as she began to lose herself to her emotions. Tamao-chan, I know you're not like before. Relax. Looking at Yukari, the blonde then said. I don't know why this started, but you're going back to the hotel. Okay, but what are you gonna tell Mocha and Cow Tits? I never said, I was going pted the young witch with a glare. Before the brunette could ask, the tomo-eyed blonde spoke sternly and scolding her, you interrupted our date, Yukari. I don't care what your deal with Tamao-chan was, but I promised to take her out tonight. I always keep my promises, Yukari. I promise you nothing will happen between Tamao-chan and I tonight. Right, Tamao-chan. Okay, conceded the mermaid. Naruto nodded before really acing the girl and forging a cage bunshin to take Yukari back. The girl pouted as the clone gripped her shoulder lightly. Naruto nodded stiffly and the clone shunshined back to the hotel. Naruto turned back to Tamao and wrapped an arm over her shoulders as he smiled at her, determined to make his friend smile again. Come on, let's get something to eat and I can tell you about my adventure in Yuki no Kuni. The blonde said softly as he led her out of the abandoned lot. After a calm dinner involving his story of how he met Kazuhana Koyuki, saved a country from her uncle's iron grip and found a device that would convert chakra to heat, making the country of snow into that of spring. The mermaid told him, in turn, about her mother and her older sisters. They then began to investigate each other. Tamao asking why he loved ramen so much, only to be shown a picture of him as a younger boy with a scarred man sitting at a booth with an older brunette chef. He told her that was some of his family, before correcting himself and calling them his pseudo-family. When asked about his real family he silenced and their table became awkwardly silent for a moment before Naruto asked Tamao what she wanted out of life. Imagine the blush on his face when she smiled flirtatiously at him and purred, you. When they returned to the hotel, a heated argument broke out between the girls before Naruto intervened via Tsukuyomi. Of course it was a moment that all the girls feared. Inner Mocha's attempt to attack Tamao was halted instantly and Naruto bore his atom-shaped pupil into Inner's ruby-red eyes. He warned the girls that he wouldn't tolerate any violence because he took someone out on a date. However, this backfired, making Kurumu ask if he would take her or the others out on a date. The blonde simply shrugged and replied with, "If I've got time." Now, we find the blonde relaxing in a bath while his roommate snores loudly in the chair as a television screen shows a black and white NSTER movie titled, It Came from Planet X. Naruto released a sigh as the tension built up over the day vanished with each second that passed by. The blonde let his eyes close and rolled his head back, sighing in relief as he recalled how well he handled the girls' spat. They had finally cornered him into giving them all dating rights, putting him in the position that would eventually lead to the ultimate life for a man. Or a brutal death due to two scorned women. As Naruto thought over his current predicament, he failed to sense the sudden burst of energy that filled the room before a splash. And sudden weight on his knee alerted him to an intruder. Coughing and shielding his eyes with one arm, Naruto reached out with his free left hand to grab the throat of his attacker. He blinked in confusion when he heard the intruder release a small moan of approval. As the dripping water slowed, Naruto lowered his arm before dropping his jaw when he saw a girl looking similar to Mocha, but with a lighter hue of pink hair, sitting in front of him. Escape successful, the girl exclaimed before blinking curiously at the boy gaping at her. "Oh. Hello man. Me, Lala. Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me." Naruto deadpanned, making the girl grin widely. So humans can speak like civilized buildings. The girl identified as Lala said with a smile before crossing her arms over her assets and shivering, Can I have a towel or something? Why me, Kami? Naruto asked as he looked to the ceiling, why'd I have to deal with the crazy shit? Okay, let me see if I've got this straight. Naruto grumbled as he pinched the bridge of his nose. He and Lala were sitting in the bathroom, the Pinkett having a towel wrapped around her nude frame and Naruto having a pair of his running shorts on. The blonde Tomoe boy looked at the girl sitting on the edge of the tub while, her devil-like tail lying on her lap from her explanation, that he sat on the toilet across from her. You're an alien princess and you used a teleportation device to escape your father's ship. Yup. Pion Warp Kun is one of my greatest inventions. Lala said with a smile as she held the device up proudly. It's powered by a combination of nitrogen and helium mixed with a catalyst of sodium oxide. Oh man, my head hurts, Naruto moaned as he rubbed his temples. First the fight with He other girls and now an alien princess that's a technological whiz. What's next? Lust. A Yuki Onna. My friends back home. Elsewhere, the Sin, a purple-haired girl with a sucker in her mouth, and a few kunoichi all sneezed simultaneously. Sing-songingly *I vile tilde. Lala-sama. A mechanical high-pitched voice suddenly cried out, though muffled through the bathroom door, and a familiar voice shouted. Get over, ya little shit. I'll teach ye ta wake me up. And now Rawhead's awake, moaned the Sharingan-blessed blonde in irritation as the bathroom door was suddenly smashed through. And a small swirly-eyed midget appeared. Lala-sama. The small being exclaimed before rushing to the towel-clad girl, who caught it in a hug as she exclaimed, Peek-kun. Peek-kun. Naruto repeated as he stared blankly at the scene. The door smashed completely down, revealing an enraged boogeyman that was still half-dressed. Rawhead looked at the small robot before noticing it was in someone's arms. At first glance he thought that someone was the vampire down the hall, but then he saw the tail. The Scot then looked at his roommate and friend with fury in his eyes. I fucking hate ya, he growled before his nose shot 2 pillars of blood and he flew backwards, colliding with the wall and falling unconscious. Naruto sighed before chuckling at his friend's reaction. He looked at Lala, who was looking at the unconscious boogeyman with confusion. Is he okay? Lala asked before shrugging and looking at her robot. Peek-kun, I'm so happy you're okay. I, too, am glad that you're safe, Lala-sama. The small robot exclaimed before looking around the room and locking eyes on the half-dressed blonde. Lala-sama, I can't help but notice you're in a room with a strange human. Who is that? Oh, I forgot to ask you for your name. Lala suddenly realized, making the blonde across from her smack himself in the face, and she smiled. He's cute when he's embarrassed. So what's your name? Blunt, aren't you? The blonde commented in amusement before speaking, I'm Uzumaki Naruto. My friend on the floor is Tommy Rawhead. Before this continues, please tell me, what the fuck is that thing on your lap? Ah, Peep-kun is my costume robot. Lala exclaimed with glee, before Naruto suddenly found his vision obscured by a piece of fabric. Upon examination, the blonde blushed when he realized that the object on his face was the girl's towel. So he responded like most boys with 4 girls chasing him would. He freaked. Dear Kami, put this back on, Naruto exclaimed as his face turned red and he averted his gaze. It was then he realized that he had shouted that. And it was a minute later that he realized the walls of a motel room were thinner than previously expected. How did he realize this? Well, 4 females barged in through the door of his hotel room. They saw the unconscious form of Rawhead outside of the bathroom, the splinters of the remaining door, and feared the worst. When they got to the doorframe, their jaws collectively dropped and drool seeped from them as their crushed destined one mate to be stood half naked in black running shorts, his blonde messy locks being damp, and a small amount of water trailing down his chest. However, it was Yukari that made the discovery of a cosplaying clad tea object of affection. "Who the hell is she?" roared the young perverted witch, snapping her frenemies and crush from their days as they began leaking yokai. Naruto-kun, Tamao started through gritted teeth, which were bleeding from the pressure she put on them. Mocha felt killer intent escape from her Rosario and Kurumu was almost foaming at the mouth. The only normal-appearing one was Yukari, who was glaring heavily at the stranger. Well, shit, Naruto thought as sweat began dripping from his head and he held 2 hands up, it's not what it looks like. I mean, she's dressed now so oh damn it. She's what now? The girls collectively roared before glass sliding doors behind them smashed open and 2 government-looking men examined the group. Everyone's anger was dropped and they were now looking at the 2 newcomers with confusion while Lala ducked behind Naruto, making said blonde groan. Oh, there's Lala-sama. Thug 1, as he will now be known, exclaimed as he pointed at Mocha's surprised face, Lala-sama, you have to come home. Lala poked her head up from behind Naruto. No, tell daddy I'm staying here. But Lala-sama. Thug 2 tried to peacefully speak, as his teammate was shocked at the look-alike Lala Mocha not being Lala, but he was interrupted by the princess. No, I'm sick of meeting potential husbands. I don't want to marry them. You must though. Thug 1 growled before looking at his partner, looks like trying to convince her is out. Force it is. Quote, thank you, Kami, Naruto suddenly exclaimed with a grin, making everyone look at him as he punched his left fist into his open hand. You have no idea how much stress I need to work off. Girls, they're mine. As he said that his eyes reverted to the atom shape the 4 fellow students of Yokai Academy wisely stepped back. Naruto flipped through hand seals, finishing with his right hand extended, palm facing the thugs, Futen, Daitapa. Wind release, great breakthrough. Quote, the 2 thugs were suddenly sent flying out of the room by the blonde, who was grinning widely as his technique also blew the nighties of his teenage female friends up, giving him great teasing material. Lala gaped at the move while Naruto walked forward, his grin still on his face as the wind blew at his face. Oh, this is gonna feel so good, the blonde cackled out as he cracked his neck and knuckles before jumping out after his quarry. Wait for me, therapy punching bags. That ain't even 1/4 my stress. Quote, the girls all gaped at their madly cackling love interest before looking at Lala when her machine spoke. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lala-sama, but aren't humans amongst the weakest creatures of the galaxy? Quote, did your dress just talk? Kurumu asked with an alarmed face as her fellow Naruto chasers stared at the girl. Who are you anyway and what were you doing with Narukoi in the bathroom? Quote, oh, Lala snapped from her dumbstruck face into one of innocent glee. I'm Lala Deviluk, and Pion Warp-kun teleported me into this bathroom as I escaped. Naruto was in the tub when I arrived. Quote, Kurumu was silent and a dark aura emanated from her, causing Mocha and Tamao to grab her arms as their easily angered succubus began screaming, let me go. I'll kill her. I'll fucking murder the bitch. Why is it we're the same ones whenever something like this happens? Mocha asked the other brunette, who shrugged as they continued to hold their friend back. Why you dare interfere in Deviluk matters, boy? Thug 1 groaned as Naruto neared his slowly rising place. Name your planet of origin and I'll beg the king to spare it if you help us return Lala-sama to her father. Not like it's my business, but Lala obviously wants to decide her own life, Naruto said with a shrug before smirking, and as a boy that wasn't given a choice on how he grew up, I'm gonna have to pass on your offer. Quote, then die, elemental, the thug cried as he pulled a small dagger out. The small weapon was a strange blue and had several gold runes carved in it. Thug 1 went to drive it in the blonde's chest, only to be easily caught by one hand at the wrist. Naruto's grin was smaller than before, but it grew as the look of fear came over his opponent's face upon seeing his eyes up close. Why you're not an elemental, what are you? Thug 1 whispered. Naruto chuckled and pulled his right fist back. I'm complicated, he replied before driving his fist into Thug 1's face, shattering his nose and causing a flow of blood to come from it. He pulled the blade from the unconscious being's hand before releasing Thug 1's wrist, allowing the thug to collapse on the ground. Naruto examined the dagger with his eyes, etching the image into his mind, before ducking as his inner alarm went off. Wondered where you scampered off to, he idly commented as he rolled away from Thug 2. You seem to be the brains while Bruno here was the bronze. No, I was just more concerned with getting Lala-sama back to the king, Thug 2 said before smirking. So, answer me this, tough guy, what species are you? Naruto blinked before chuckling and shaking his head. Dude, you have no idea what I am. Hell, after the past few months, I don't even know what I am anymore. All I know is my name, Uzumaki Naruto. My description, banished Jinchuriki, and my current occupation, student of Yokai Academy. My favorite activities are, playing with Hige-chan, entertaining the masses, and icking the asses of those who just love to grind my gears. What planet are Jinchuriki from? Thug 2 asked in an effort to gain more information for his king. Naruto laughed. Oh, buddy, the blonde said before gripping his right wrist. You just pushed the wrong button. Being called a monster today is a fucking compliment, but calling me a fucking alien. You just signed your own death certificate. I see. Thug 2 chuckled out before reaching into his black suit jacket and pulling a gun out, only for it to be kicked aside when a ghostly figure attacked him. As Thug 2 slid back, Naruto released a loud laugh. Wondered what took ya so long, Rawhead. He exclaimed as the Scot rematerialized next to him in a fighting stance while Naruto's right hand began sparking with electricity. Gonna get me chewed out by Drake again. Ya ass, Rawhead smirked as he replied, but, it was worth it to see girls restrain her succubus. So many jiggling balloons, not enough eye control. You're sure you've never read Ika Ika? Naruto asked as his hand began chirping. Rawhead laughed before sinking into the ground and grabbing the ankles of Thug 1, who was attempting to get back to his feet and ambush them. Yay, I'm sure, just like I'm sure ye don't deserve all the attention from them girls, Rawhead said before pulling the man underground and rising up in front of him. So, Tweedledee. Wah, avenue we learned from tryin' ta sneak attack me and, my friend. What the fuck are you people? Thug 1 exclaimed as Rawhead dropped his disguise momentarily. Thug 1 would forever be scarred with the sight of a flesh-covered skull minus the eyes and a few rotting holes covering the face. His disguise back up, Rawhead sighed as he rubbed his head. I dunno, pal, he replied to the unconscious man before looking at his now charging friend with a grin, but I like it. Chidori, Naruto exclaimed as he shoved his hand through the chest of his opponent. Thug 2 gasped before slumping over the shoulder of the teen that killed him. Naruto tugged on his arm before grunting in struggle. He looked back to see Rawhead laughing at his predicament and whined, "Shut up, dude. This is so wrong, gimme a hand." "Oh no way, ass. Consider this my payback." Rawhead laughed out, holding his sides as he did so. Naruto growled at his friend and put his foot on the shoulder of the deceased alien before re-shoving him away with a chakra-enhanced kick. The blonde yelped as he stumbled backwards and his head collided with the concrete, making a loud smack echo through the abandoned streets. Naruto groaned and looked at his friend. who was dying from laughter, before smirking, and joy never felt so good to the blonde. Upon returning to their heavily ruined hotel room, Naruto and Rawhead had to rester themselves from busting a gut all over again. On the couch was a bound and gagged Kurumu. She was tied up by towels and what had to be Naruto's ramen boxers shoved in her mouth. The blonde knew he should have been repulsed by the blissful look on her face, but he couldn't fight back the amusement crawling up his spine. Okay, do I even wanna know why Kurumu's chewing on my boxers? Naruto asked. With a snicker as Rawhead's restraint collapsed and he exploded into laughter. The girls, all sitting in a circle on the floor and talking with one another, all looked up with smiles on their faces. Hello Naruto-kun. The girls minus Kurumu simultaneously said with eerie smiles on their faces. Naruto knew he shouldn't respond to their smiles, hell, he knew he should have just about faced and bolted like Rawhead did. But then again, this is Naruto we're talking about. Hi girls, Naruto replied with a grin before it slowly fell into a fear-stricken grimace. Oh crap, just remembered what happened before my therapy session. I'm in trouble, aren't I? More than you know, Mocha huskily whispered from behind the blonde, making him jump at her speed before seeing the Rosario often lying in her previous spot. Naruto looked from the Rosario to the silver-haired Mocha. Rosario on the floor. Silver-haired Mocha DRD across back. Rosario off Mocha's neck. Mocha stroking whisker mark. Rosario glinting almost tauntingly at Naruto. Pain in neck. Yeouch. Naruto yelped as he tried to leap away from the silver-haired Mocha's surprising bite, her superior strength holding him in place as she eagerly fed on him. The blonde wondered why this feeding hurt so much when he remembered something. She not only bit into his neck, she literally chomped on him. Note to self, never piss Mocha off. Naruto noted in his mind before realizing something. Hey wait a minute, I didn't take the Rosario off. Nope, Lala chimed, I did. Found a funny looking squiggle on the back and I errors. Edit after I wanted to get a closer look at the pretty necklace. Of course you did, Naruto swallowed out before looking over his shoulder at Mocha, and now you can remove it at will, right? Mocha broke from her feeding and smirked seductively at the blonde. Yes, I can. Well, shit, Naruto sighed out before shining to the other side of the room with his back against the door, in preparation to bolt when two glowing snakes wrapped around his legs. He looked immediately to Yukari, who grinned innocently. Too innocently. We came up with a fun idea while you and Ra Aniki were getting therapy. The young witch explained before gesturing to Lala. We discovered that Lala-san here is looking for a good husband to rule the universe with. I have a very, very bad feeling about T.S., Naruto thought before reluctantly asking, and, after asking what she wanted in a hubby, we decided to let her in on the chase, but since she's under pressure, we decided to make a game tonight for the dates, orders. Seeing as Tamao already had a date and apparently I'm too young, Yukari glared at the smirking mermaid before continuing. Cow Tits Kurumu glared at the witch Mocha-chan, and Lala are going to have to get a kiss from you tonight. The first to get one chooses the order of the dates for the upcoming week, as well as the terms for the other girls. Terms. Naruto gulped out at the hungry look from the 5 girls in the room, promptly ignoring the look on Yukari's face and wondering why there was a look on Lala's. Yup. Yukari chimed before rubbing her hands together. Whoever catches you decides how far everyone gets on the date, ranging between first and third base, kissing to blowjobs. Of course, Naruto deadpanned as he began actively struggling in his confinements. And how are you going to know who kisses me first? Why, I'm glad you asked. Tamao replied with a smirk before looking at a beaming Lala. Lala here has produced these. Tamao held her hot NDS out and 3 orb-like machines floated up, a small circular opening revealing glass on the front as short antenna rose from the back. The mermaid continued as each went to one girl, their Deviluk trademarked Naru kiss cams. And we have the receiver hooked up to the television in the room Yukari and I were given. You get a 30-second head start, Naruto-kun. Naruto instantly grinned, making the girls frown at the sight. Before he looked at his ankles. Looking back at Yukari he crossed his arms and cleared his throat. The girl looked at him in confusion and he sighed before gesturing to his restraints. If you wouldn't mind, Yukari-chan. Oh, Yukari exclaimed before grinning and waving her wand. Sorry, Naruto-sensei. 30 seconds, huh? He asked, getting a nod as Tamao started a stopwatch. The blonde chuckled and rolled his shoulder before lifting his hand into his infamous hand seal, making the four that knew him scowl and the one that didn't tilt her head in confusion. Crap, Yukari exclaimed as the blonde made several shadow clones before they all vanished in a massive swirl of leaves. We forgot about his replicating technique, Mocha stated with a bit of annoyance at her own folly. This will make it difficult. Tamao untied Kurumu, who refused to hand the boxers back, and chuckled. Well, all I have to say is he didn't think about whether you have to kiss the original. This is a timed game. Girls, it'd be easier if we knew what he was. Kurumu pouted before smirking. Oh, I know what I'm doing as soon as I win. If you win, Mocha pointed out with a glare as she and the succubus exchanged growls. Time. You three are free to begin. Tamao exclaimed, stopping a fight before it could happen. She giggled as the three rushed out the shattered window, Kurumu taking to the sky. Mocha rushing through the streets, and Lala stopping on a rooftop and fiddling with a device. The mermaid looked at the kitchen, where a previously missing Rawhead emerged, and smirked. You've got an evil mind. Rawhead. That I do, lass, Rawhead said as he sat between the girls with a large bowl of popcorn in his lap as he turned the TV on and took a bite. Poor asshole ain't gonna realize who set I am up, till it's too late. Raw Aniki, can I have some? Yukari asked as she sat next to Rawhead, who laughed and nodded. None of the three saw or heard the pot placed behind them on the couch burst into smoke and vanish as they began watching the girls search for Naruto. Seated on the top of the hotel, hidden by the blinding neon red sign, Naruto scowled before chuckling. Is that how it is? Rawhead. Well, we'll see how this game plays out before I try to get payback. I'd better warn my clones about the loophole. And why would you? Are you an idiot, Kit? Asked a familiar voice from the back of his mind. Naruto growled in annoyance before pushing the connection back. He sighed and held his head as the fox threw a tantrum from being ignored. The repressing of Sasuke's memories as well as Kyuubi's existence might bite him in the ass, but he doesn't want to contact the Kitsune just yet. Not until it's absolutely necessary. Mocha growled to herself in annoyance. His scent was everywhere, but how that was possible escaped her. The silver-haired beauty had been searching for an hour now, and more than once had she spotted a flash of sun-kissed yellow before losing track of it. The vampire growled lowly once again. If you had just taken him when I told you to, we wouldn't be in this mess. She thought, getting a meek reply from her other consciousness. Wah, I wasn't going to force myself on him. Naruto-kun isn't like other boys. The outer consciousness of Mocha thought, causing the silver-haired one to imagine her pinkett form poking her fingers together with a depressed cloud over her head. Mocha sighed and stopped running in an effort to locate her marked one's scent. This would be easier if he was aroused or bleeding, he grumbled to herself before mind after a moment of thinking. Mocha clapped a hand to her head as she groaned, or I could follow the damnable scent of his cheap noodles. Stupid, I should have thought of this earlier. The new scent being easily found in the early morning air, Mocha turned right and ran after it, intent on finding her marked one and finishing what she started. Kurumu scowled as he scanned the streets from her altitude. An hour of searching and nothing. Not a single glimpse of her beloved sun-kissed hair, or a single flare of his strange yokai that would announce his presence. Hell, she'd settle for a freaking clone if it meant winning the damn contest. No way was some alien princess or the silver-haired bitch going to get first dibs on a date with Naruto. I've got to win, Kurumu thought determinedly as she scanned the area with furrowed brows before a lustful glaze crossed her features, and once I do, Narukoi is all mine. Naruto idly sharpened one of his kunai. Before a loud obnoxious beeping got his attention. He had felt the nearing energy source, but he was waiting for the energy to reveal itself before he fought or flew. The blonde resealed the kunai into his left arm, having learned to draw seals from Jiraiya on their training trip, before standing with a stretch. He about-faced and looked at the newcomer, who was beaming at her success. So, what the hell is that thing called? Lala-chan. The blonde with tomos in his eyes asked, crossing his arms over his still bare chest. The alien princess stared at him for a moment before shaking her head and smiling widely. I call it trace Kun, she exclaimed, making the blonde snort. It can trace anyone or anything up to 27 parsecs. Isn't that a measure of time? Naruto asked with a frown. Lala giggled. Most tend to think so, she said with a smile before walking closer. Now, I'd like it if you didn't move. Naruto remained still as the girl puckered her lips, closed her eyes and leaned forward. At the last moment, he lifted his left finger and pressed it against her lips. Not kissing the blonde target, but rather his finger, Lala opened her eyes to come across the depressing sight of him looking at her blankly. What the fuck are you doing? Asked the Tomo-eyed blonde, his eyes hardening slightly. Lala leant back and stared at him in confusion. I'm trying to kiss you. Really? I couldn't tell, I knew that. Naruto deadpanned when he realized she didn't understand his sarcasm. What I meant was, why are you trying to kiss me? Because I want to marry you. Lala said as though it were obvious. Naruto's head rolled back and a bark of laughter escaped his lips. He looked at the confused Pinkett neutrally before scowling. No, he said sternly, you're not trying to kiss me to marry you. You're trying to kiss me to escape your life. I'm no one's pawn, Lala. I won't let you drag me into a lie you've made for yourself. Huh, but you're perfect. Daddy'll understand and he'll teach you how to be a good king. Lala cried as her confusion didn't fall. Naruto closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. Lala-chan, don't get me wrong, he started, you're gorgeous. You're smart, shit, you're everything that most guys want in a girl. You're just like Mocha-chan, Tamao-chan, and Kurumu-chan. However, none of you know me. Granted, the others know me more than you. But you jumped past knowing me and practically declared yourself my fiancé. Come to think of it, the others did too. He shook his head before looking at the girl. I'm getting off track. Lala, your father is trying to set you up because he wants his line to continue and he wants to be sure that the one to marry you will love and cherish you and vice versa. He only wants you to be happy. Lala, I can be happy with you. Lala interrupted. Naruto's narrowed gaze returned and she became quiet as he continued. No, you cannot, he firmly said. Lala, I am not human. Mocha isn't human. Tamao isn't human. Kurumu isn't human. We're not human. I know. The Pinkett cried again, tears going down her cheeks. Yukari-san and Tamao-san told me everything. Now, that being said, we cannot marry. Why? Because you simply want a way out. I won't do that just to keep you happy. I will fight for your freedom because you're a good person and you could be a good friend, he said to her. His tone lightening and a smile crossing his face as her tears stopped before he frowned. But you need someone who you love. Lala remained quiet and Naruto sighed before scratching his head and chuckling sheepishly. Wow, that has to be the deepest and longest letdown I've ever given a girl. Huh, that was also the first one. Neat. With determination on her face, Lala looked at the blonde and pointed at him. Mocha-san and Tamao-san were right, you're perfect husband material. Naruto's grin fell and his eyes widened. Wait, what? You're brutally honest, you understand love, you're kind, sweet. And according to Yukari-san, a good father, Lala listed before smiling widely, and you're attractive. You're a perfect catch, and even if there's a whole universe out there, I doubt there's another one out there. Quote, were you even listening to me? Naruto asked with a tick in his eye before he looked at the sky. Does anyone listen to me anymore, Datbeo? He froze before, re-looking at the gushing alien with a blush on his face. You didn't hear that? Was that a verbal tick? Lala asked with a squeal. That's so cute. Oh goddammit. Naruto swore. Ero-sennin and I worked for months to get rid of that. Quote, but it's so cute. What does it mean? Is it a phrase or something? Lala asked before crossing her arms. Tick aside, you're perfect. You'll make a good husband and king. Wait a minute, I never agreed to that. Naruto exclaimed before finding himself tackled to the ground as a pair of marshmallow soft lips pressed against his own. He felt himself relax into the kiss. But before he could enter the passionate moment, Lala broke away and looked at a floating machine that he forgot about. I won. Right. she asked before grinning down at the blonde and pecking him on the cheek. You'll see, I'll prove that we can love each other. Aro Senin, I know this is your way of kicking me in the nads for your title, the blonde moaned in response. Meanwhile, within the hotel room, Rahed was holding his stomach and guffawing. He has a tick. The Scot laughed, oh priceless. Shit, this is priceless. Tamao and Yukari recalled Mocha and Kurumu once Naruto and a pleased Lala returned. Kurumu and Mocha scowled at the Pinkett, but didn't dare attack her in the concern that their destined marked one might become angry if they did. Naruto remained quiet for the rest of the evening as Lala decided how far each girl would go. She decided that first base would be it, as she wanted her husband to remain comfortable. The decision wasn't approved of by Kurumu or Mocha, but they swore to agree with it on their family honor. The succubus smiled secretively that night as she knew when it came to their destined ones, succubi never had honor. Rahed yawned widely the next morning. He wasn't tired. It was hard to sleep when one was undead. He wondered how the vampires managed it before snorting in amusement when he remembered asking that question. Mocha answered him by stating vampires fell into deep meditations, and that the fact the vampires that were undead were not vampires but low-ranked yokai that drained humans of plasma for their energy and a bastardized group of descendants that came from the infamous Nosferatu clan. Rahed then tilted his head and wondered if Mocha was an immortal, or if her genetics just gave her enhanced longevity. Either way, she's a lucky lass, the boogeyman mused aloud to himself. He looked over at his exhausted roommate, who was sleeping soundly and snoring quite loudly. The Scotsman grumbled and scratched his cheek as he stood, feeling a large patch of fuzz appear on his disguised face. He went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. His disguise was maturing into most dashing face in all world, or the face of his human father. He sighed and scratched the reddish-brown fuzz, the stereotypical hair color coming from his pure Scottish blood. Should he shave? Nah. Kuryu's as to how his other face was growing. Rahed dropped his disguise and tilted his head. The muscles were darkening due to their exposure to sunlight and his visible bone was starting to dry from the lack of mist at the school. He sighed and splashed water onto his face, moistening the bone. Too dry and it would start to chip away. The Scot looked in the mirror again and felt a depression come over him. His body was bony and his true form was the equivalent of a rotting corpse, no better than a zombie. In fact, the only advantage his true form gave him over his disguise was fear factor. No one, not even a vampire, would stare at his face longer than necessary if they had to. Rahed grimaced and returned to his disguise before leaving the room and getting a change of clothes, returning to the bathroom to shower. He wanted to clear his head, and staying in the room with the most desirable freshman to the female students wouldn't help. Rahed frowned at that bout of mild jealousy and anger towards his friend. He knew Naruto would rather be left alone than be burdened or blessed as most men thought with all the females at the school, save for some. It wasn't fair to despise him for something out of his control. What Rahed couldn't understand was why Naruto wasn't living it up or basking in it before the fantasy crumbled around him. Maybe he's got a bad experience with women, the Scot thought before shrugging. Well, the ass will tell me if he wants to. 30 minutes later, Rahed was walking the streets of the city in search of something to do. He glanced over lazily at the square and grimaced at the local high school's bodybuilding team. The boys were grotesque with their bulging muscles, and Rahed, being the one he is, decided to make a joke out of them. "Oi, are ye fags compensating for somethin'?" he asked as he cupped his hands around his mouth, getting the attendees' and team's attention. He smirked and pat his thigh. "I haven't the need for steroids." Outraged, the bodybuilders ran at him, making the boogeyman yelp in mock fear before he ran down a nearby alley. Rahed laughed madly as the team struggled to follow him as two members attempt to go through the entrance at the same time. The Scotsman flipped them off and ducked to the left down another alley before going right once again. A few minutes of walking later, the poor boy frowned. Eden held his chin in a thinking manner. "Yup, it's official," the Scot sighed out as a wave of depression hit him. "I'm definitely lost." Tamao knocked on the door that her beau was residing in, only to receive silence. Not wanting another Lala fiasco, the mermaid stepped back before kicking the door down, consequently causing Naruto to shoot up from his sleep, and 2 hidden clones to tackle her to the ground. One holding a kunai to her throat after subduing her. "Relax Oyabun," one clone said once he got a good look at her, "it's Tamao-chan. We'll go back to our positions." "Thanks, nah." Ruto sighed as he rubbed the sleep from his eye before looking at Tamao. "Tamao-chan, don't do that again. It's almost as bad as sneaking into bed with me, which thankfully no one has. Yet being the operative word," the mermaid pointed out with a grin as he groaned and fell back in the bed. Lazily, Naruto waved his hand. "Go away, Tamao-chan. I'm sleepy, that stupid challenge got to me and I made too many clones, stupid memories." "Well, I just wanted to ask you something anyway," she said, making him sit up and glare at her. "You kicked the door down to ask me a question?" he asked after a moment. When she nodded he continued with, "Why?" "Because I wanted permission to tell the others what you are." Tamao pouted out cutely, making him scowl at the tactic. He grumbled to himself or a moment before flopping back onto the bed. "Yeah, fine, whatever," he muttered, pulling the blanket back up over his shoulder and slamming a pillow on his head. "Just let me sleep." Tamao smiled and smoothly went to his side, lifting the pillow, and kissing him on the head, making him tense, before replacing it where it was. The blue-haired mermaid put the door back where it was, and, examining the damage, with a relief that the hinges were still attached and the door wasn't off the wall, she closed it, but not before whispering, "Pleasant dreams, love." "Yeah," Naruto muttered once he relaxed and recognized what she had said. Pleasant. The memories of one Uchiha Sasuke were getting unbearable. Rawhead sighed and looked around. This still looked like a black market, even if the sign out front said otherwise. Along with the employee wearing a Whale Mart shirt with a smiley face on the right shoulder. Then again, the smiley face had barbed wire wrapped around it. He shrugged and walked towards a large group massing in front of an auctioneer. The boy tilted his head and remained silent before his blood boiled. "And this lovely specimen," the auctioneer said as 2 trolls that were out of disguise pulled a thrashing dark-skinned girl no older than him onto the stage, as a grade A+ Arabian genie. Now, we all know what Arabian genies are known for, yes. His lewd word made several older men chuckle perversely around Rawhead, and the teen growled lowly, clenching his fists. It was a black market all right, but it was a yokai black market, and a slave trade at that. He hated slave trades, possibly because between ages 6 and 9 he was forcibly separated from his mother to work in a nearby village. The villager he lived with treated him like dirt and did unpleasant things to him. Well, he did until Rawhead lost his grip over his disguise. Then it was just beatings. The Scot looked at the girl. Her skin was fair, but she was weak. Starved. He could tell from the single row of ribs visible and the way her hair, which at one time had to have been a lovely green, was now dulled and pale. Her clothes were purple pants that were cuffed at the ankle, a chain between both cuffs, which were silver. Along with the cuffs on her wrists and a purple, from what he saw that could only be cloth giving her decency. The single fly buzzing near her alerted him that they hadn't been cleaning her. This had to have meant they hadn't violated her yet. Good. He didn't wish unwanted advances on anyone else, except for Naruto. The poor guy made it funny to watch, and Rawhead had to admit he liked comedy. "Do I hear 40 gold?" asked the auctioneer. 40 gold. 45. A man cried. Blood started boiling again. Shit, Rawhead thought with a scowl as he glanced around at the slowly growing hostility in the auction. The girl had tears pouring from her eyes, which Rawhead noticed were a rare gold, and his anger grew. The Scotsman reached into his back pocket and pulled out a small pencil. Crushing it in his grip and basking in the smoke. He would act now and stall until the reinforcements would arrive. Naruto shot up with a jolt at what his most recent clone messaged him. It was an emergency hanged clone, or an EHC as Draco called them, and in the case of needing immediate backup, Naruto would know and alert the others upon its destruction. The blonde leapt out of bed and went to his duffel, furiously pulling an orange t-shirt on as he simultaneously slipped his sandals on. He pulled his headband out and tied it around his head tightly. The Monstar's flak was thrown on as he leapt out the shattered windows towards his friend's location. He didn't take more than 5 seconds to get out the door. Rawhead silently slipped through the crowd and moved towards the stage. He ignored indignant men and appalled women as he shoved them out of his way, albeit discreetly. The Scot hardened his gaze and waited until he heard the word that would act as his kindling. The word that would signal him that this man was doing what he thought, the word that would officiate edge. Sold. To the young gentleman at the front for 500 gold. The auctioneer announced while pointing at him. Rawhead's grin turned dark. The young man said before stepping onto the stage, I win. I seem to have forgotten my cash, do you accept beatings? Pardon? The auctioneer asked with a confused frown before his head whipped back and a crack filled the air. Rawhead's arm was extended in a post-haymaker punch, and he swiftly followed through with a weeping kick that caused the auctioneer to fall into the crowd. The Scot looked at the genie and was surprised to see her staring at him with awe. Fuck are ye starin' at? He asked with a growl as he grabbed her arm. We've got to go. Now, before. The two trolls stormed the stage, one grabbing Rawhead's whole head in its massive hand and making the girl scream in fear. Rawhead's grip on the genie dropped instantly as he was lifted up. The troll growled menacingly and threw the teen away. He collided with a pillar and took a good chunk out of it upon his impact. Okie dokie then, Rawhead. D coughed out as he braced his back with his left arm. Ya shouldn't, haven't you done that? The troll disregarded his words and roared, making the Scotsman groan as he slowly stood. Ah great, mountain trolls, well. Fuck. A large fist sent him spiraling as it backhanded him into yet another concrete-covered steel pillar. The young boogeyman groaned as he felt a kidney fail before it started up again. He smirked as he coughed up blood. Well, thank God for the yokai healing. Kill that punk. The auctioneer shouted to the trolls as he dusted himself off. The crowd slowly began cheering the trolls on, and the genie watched with tears falling down her cheeks. Oh, don't be cryin' now, lass, groaned out the boogeyman, breakin' me heart. I'm fine. They won't be fair long oof. One of the trolls, which Rawhead mentally dubbed ugly, the other was smelly, just kicked him in the side, sending him flying across the room and into the doors. He rolled backwards into the alley. Looking up, Rawhead grinned at the caster of a shadow that covered him and said, well, it took y'all long enough. Back at the hotel, the girls had just returned from a massive shopping spree and were currently relaxing in Mocha, Lala, and Kurumu's room. The girls collectively agreed Lala would need to go shopping because her normal outfit wasn't exactly normal, even for yokai standards. Okay, what did you want, Ichinos? Kurumu asked with a frown. Sitting on the bed with her legs crossed like a pretzel, you said this was important and not to try and bother Narukoi, which irks me to no end. We really should let him sleep, Mocha, the pinkett said as she tried to placate her big-chested friend. He used up a lot of energy to evade us. Not me. Lala cheerfully beamed, making the two stare at her with a bit of annoyance. He just scolded me. Quote, did he say the word Tsukuyomi? Mocha asked with a shiver. The rest of the girls followed her example. Lala tilted her head and thought for a moment before answering, nope. Why, that like his duplication machine. Lala, he doesn't use a duplication machine, Yukari giggled out after they stared at the alien. The princess of the universe furrowed her brow. But how did he make so many replicates? Lala asked. A twitter that could be called a machine-like giggle came from her hat that was seated at her side. The girls looked at the machine. Lala LLED peak as it reverted to its robot form. Lala-sama, may I suggest that it's his natural ability to make clones? The small bot wondered. A chuckle from Tamao got the girls to look at her. The RMAID was smiling and looked at them all before speaking. All right, I'll cut straight to the chase, Tamao said, making the girls blink in confusion. I'm going to tell you what kind of monster Naru-kun is. You know, came from Mocha and Kurumu. What's that mean? Came from a confused Lala and an equally confused Peak. And, finally, was what Yukari exclaimed. Tamao nodded. I've had my guess. And Naru-kun confirmed it last night on our date. The girls from Yokai Academy leaned forward, and after a moment before succumbing to pure curiosity, Lala leaned forward as well. The auctioneer W. as about to start the bidding again when a door that Rawhead was thrown through was suddenly kicked open. Standing and cracking his neck stiffly, a slightly bloodied Rawhead stood in a flak jacket next to an angry blonde. Naruto cracked his knuckles and his atom-shaped eyes were glaring at the entire room. So, whose ass is going to get whooped first? He asked the room as he walked in and pulled a kunai out, spinning it on his finger before holding it in a reversed grip. The troll snarled and charged him, making the boy grin. Naru-kun is a ninja, Tamao said, making everyone stare at her blankly. She groaned and pulled a book from her nearby shopping bag out. They had to get the alien princess up to date on how to blend in anyway, so they went to a bookstore and flipped to a special chapter labeled Shinobi. The mermaid smiled and pointed at an image of a generic shinobi. This is what most humans see when they think of ninja or shinobi. Naru-kun is a special type though. Naruto ducked under the troll's attempt to punch him and dropped it with a kick to the back of its right knee. The blonde then punched the kneeling troll in the back of its head, knocking it out instantly. He sidestepped the charging troll and formed a chidori in his right hand. You picked the wrong day to be a henchman, he growled as the lightning chirped wildly. Naru-kun's village is a long-lost area, hidden by its surroundings. Tamao explained, you can tell from where each ninja is from by the symbol on their headband, Arhetai-ite. His is a leaf, so we can assume he comes from a land hidden in leaves. But what about his cloning ability? Mocha asked curiously. Tamao waved her hand. I'm getting there. Geez, she grumbled. Naruto and Rawhead panted, the former caked in blood of mixed races whilst the latter dropped his phasing ability and released the genie's shoulder. The Scottish boogeyman fell to one knee and rested his arm against his back. Even with his yokai healing, there was heavy damage. Damn, that really felt good, Naruto panted out before swallowing and looking at the Scotsman. So, who's your girlfriend? Oi, shut up, Rawhead exclaimed with a blush. I just wanted to help the other slaves. There's no one else, the genie said quietly, making both boys look at her. I was a special sale. Naruto looked at Rawhead when she collapsed to the ground crying on her knees and simply said, you deal with it, I've got 5 of my own problems. Fucking faggot, his friend shot back in irritation before kneeling next to the girl and resting a hand on her shoulder. Hey, there. Lass, come on, give us a name then. What's her name? J. Sniff Genie, she answered, no surname. Genie, a beautiful name for a gem of the East, Rawhead S. Awfully said as he reassuringly rubbed her shoulder. Let's get out of here. Come on, Genie, come with us. Rawhead and Naruto helped the girl stand and both escorted her out of the building. Naruto then held one hand up and teleported them back to the hotel. Naruto found himself under scrutinizing gazes of his many possible girlfriends when he returned caked in blood and helping Rawhead hold a strange girl up. It's not what it looks like, Naruto said, this is Rawhead's girlfriend. Oi, Rawhead exclaimed with a red face. Naruto and Rawhead were glaring at the clerk seated behind their hotel's counter. The poor man just whimpered under their gaze before holding out a set of keys with a shaky hand. FF free 00 of C charge, he said with a weak and forced smile. Naruto smirked and snatched the keys out of his hand, about facing and walking away before looking back at the still lingering Rawhead. The blonde sighed and walked back to his friend's side before smacking him upside the head. Oi, the Scot exclaimed in shock and pain, they a stupid idiot. 1. I have the keys, Naruto said jingling said keys in Ra's face. 2. The poor man is about to faint but wants to wait until we leave. And 3. Your girlfriend is still waiting for us back in the room. Fuck you, asshole. He received in an embarrassed reply. Naruto merely shrugged and turned around again as he walked away. I'll take a pass on that. Thanks, he called back as he calmly strolled down the halls. Rawhead growled under his breath before sighing and rushing after the shinobi. The 2 teens gone. The counterman weakly put a sign on the countertop that read, back in 5 feet before fainting dead on his feet. So let's list what we know about your girlfriend, the blonde started before dodging a punch in the head. Oi. The lass and me girl, Mr. Hefner, growled out the Scottish boogeyman. Naruto shrugged and resumed walking. Yeah, right, and I'm going to have to marry more than 4 women to rebuild one of my parents' clans. Turn out to be a prince of a crushed nation, and discover an ability that causes me to be nearly immortal, snorted out the blonde Sharingan-gifted teen. Rawhead mumbled under his breath. But Naruto ignored it as he continued to talk. Anyway, her name's Genie, no surname. She's a genie from a land called Arabia, but she doesn't have a lamp of some sort. She's still a virgin, which you should be happy about. Hey, what did I say about trying to shove me through a wall? Bite me. Nah, I'll pass. I'm not in the mood to eat shit. Hey, no touchy. Genie and Lala waited patiently for Naruto and Rawhead to return with their room key. The 2 of them were sitting with the other 4 girls along for the vacation, in the non-destroyed room belonging to Yukari and Tamao. The roommates were seated on their respective beds, Genie and Lala next to Yukari whilst Mocha, who was still white-haired and thus dubbed Uramoka by the inventive alien, and Kurumu saw T next to the mermaid although reluctantly. So let's get this all straight, Uramoka said with a small frown, you want Naruto to remain pure. Lala nodded her head eagerly, yeah. He's so sweet. I want his first time to be special. The 4 girls knowing otherwise sighed, already tired of trying to explain that their beau had been deflowered by a priestess who bore his son. Mocha and Kurum, you were tired of it because of the reminder of their failure to mark Naruto as their mate first was getting irritating, and Tamao and Yukari because they had accepted Lala could be, in certain situations, more stubborn than their beau. Genie giggled at the alien's naivety before looking at the others. What's this school you go to? Yokai Academy, a voice from the door answered, making the GI RLS turn to see the only 2 boys on the trip enter the room. Naruto held the keys up and jingled them before tossing them at Lala, who caught them effortlessly, before smiling at Genie, if you want though. Ra can explain everything tonight when you, Lala, he and I go out. I dinna recall how. Rawhead was silenced as Naruto jammed an elbow in his gut. The blonde glanced at his friend warningly. And the Scot swallowed before looking at the girls and smiling falsely, oh yes, my pal, Zhu, forgot ta remind me of how I suggested a double date I mean an outing. Best bullshitting I've heard from him yet. Naruto mused with a grin before looking back at the girls and seeing 2 of the 6 frown. Scratching his head, Naruto sighed, Mocha-chan, Kuru-chan, would the both of you like to join me for lunch so we can discuss our dates? Lala-chan, I'd invite you, too, but we've got a date tonight so I think that'll make up for it. Lala smiled innocently and nodded, okie dokie, Naruto-kun. I can't wait for tonight. Ooh, I have an idea. Tamao suddenly cried, let's go shopping. Poor Genie needs something to wear other than her current clothes. I'm in, Yukari chimed, getting an equally excited nod from Lala. Naruto glanced at Rawhead and the Scot sighed. I'll help ya carry bags, he said with a hung head. Naruto smiled and clapped a hand on the boogeyman's shoulder. Good man, the blonde said, before hissing quietly through his grin, this is payback, bitch. I fucking hate ya, Naruto, so much. Mocha, Naruto and Kurumu met in the lobby aft. They had showered and redressed for a late lunch out of the hotel. Mocha, who had replaced her Rosario, now wore a dark green blouse with a blue monarch butterfly on it, her shapely legs being CTED from the Windy City afternoon by a pair of jeans. She had a beaming smile on her face when Kurumu came down. The busty succubus had a V-neck shirt on, revealing quite the amount of cleavage making the doorman faint from blood loss. And a rather modest skirt despite her people's nature to reveal as much skin as possible. When the blonde stepped down, both girls felt blushes come over their faces, as he did when he looked at them. Naruto was wearing an open blue plaid shirt over an, shockingly, orange muscle shirt and dark baggy denim jeans over his sandals. On his head, rather than the usual headband, he wore a black and blue bucket hat, causing his blonde hair to shade his eyes mysteriously. Noticing their stares, Naruto smiled at the girls while forcing his blush down. You both look lovely. It's a shame it's not our real dates. At that, Kurumu snapped from her stare and sauntered over to the blonde. trailing a finger down from the side of his jaw as she purred, "Oh, but my koi, you've yet to see anything yet." Mocha, snapping herself from her own leer, appeared in front of the blonde by gently pushing Kurumu out of the way, making the brunette stumble away towards the wall. The pinkette smiled up at the blonde nervously, "Why, you look very handsome, Naruto-kun." Naruto smiled at the girl, his eyes shutting as he did so and giving him a more vulpine appearance, before he replied, "Thank you, Mocha-chan. Like I said before, you both look beautiful, let's get some lunch then, shall we?" "Hi," the pinkette agreed, quickly latching onto his left arm. A pair of soft pillows suddenly pressed against his right arm and the blonde looked to see the sweetly smiling Kurumu latched onto him. "Well, ain't this a fuck-up waiting to happen?" Naruto thought before smiling softly, "Then let's go. Anywhere specific you want to eat?" "I saw a nice little bakery down the way," Kurumu said, pointing down the street to the right. Naruto looked at Mocha and the vampire nodded, Seker. TLY hoping to get a drink of her favorite liquid later on. The blonde led them both towards the bakery, oblivious to the envious glares he got from many men and the leers sent his way by several women. The two girls hanging from his arms were glaring at the various looks they were attracting. "I'm afraid I'm gonna have to use a genjutsu to cover us," the blonde thought as he felt the girls on either of his arm radiate killing intent. "Are clones to hold them back? Cripes, I hope the rest of the stars aren't dealing with this." "Ah, Draco-san, thank you for staying with me while Naruto-kun left with the newspaper club," Shion said as she changed Hige's diaper, the leader of the Monstars a good 5 feet away. "It's no problem," Draco replied as he pinched his nose, "but damn, no offense, Shion-san. But your kid sure makes a mess." Shion giggled, her maternal training teaching her how to block certain scents with chakra, before replying, "Oh well, I'm sure Hige-chan gets that from Naruto-koi." Draco smirked, "Makes sense. Poor guy got the worst week vacation, though." Shion nodded before gasping as she was assaulted by a vision. Blitz and Sky were sitting with the Glee Club and the Tech Club watching a stage production of Hairspray. The couple had their hands intertwined and the siren had her head on the Yeti's right shoulder. Mac was with his Gamblers Club in Vegas. The Tina G'd leprechaun was laughing madly as he won another round of blackjack. There were two showgirls standing behind the winning redhead. Vern was with his Extreme Sports Club somewhere in Taos Dragon. With her was rushing towards the headmaster's office. Her vision jumped forward in time, how far she wasn't sure, and focused on her baby's father. Naruto was fighting some horde of gray human-like beings. He was covered in blood and was standing defensively in front of Yukari, who was huddled next to what looked like a terrified brown-haired girl with her clothes torn and bloody. Mocha was silver-haired and kicking the attackers away. Kurumu had her claws extended and was slicing the beings apart while standing back-to-back with a violet-haired girl growing ice-like claws. The vision stopped. Hyon gasped loudly and braced herself against the changing table. Draco arched a brow. "Hey, you okay? I mean, you just zoned out there." It's nothing," Shion murmured before focusing on her crying son. "Oh no, baby shish, it's okay. Kasen's here." "Aw, Luki, Ra-kun." Lala cried as she held up a skirt over Jeannie's waist, the magical girl blushing heavily. "Jean-chan will be so pretty with this on." Ra, who was plopped in a chair outside the dressing rooms of a woman's clothing store, groaned. They had been to 3 stores already, and the girls had bought more clothing than he expected them to get. Currently at his feet were 12 bags, 4 from each shop they had been to. The Scottish boogeyman rubbed his head. Yeah, Lala-san. I'm sure Delas will be radiant." The genie in question flushed slightly, her eyes dropping to her feet in embarrassment. She hadn't been sincerely complimented before. The golden-eyed genie glanced back at the uncomfortable-looking Scotsman before muttering, "Our Ra looks rather uncomfortable." Lala blinked and Genie continued, "Maybe we should just go." Yukari and Tamao whined while Ra's head snapped up and he mouthed the words, "Thank you." "So Narukoi," Kurumu started as she leant against Naruto's left shoulder in the bakery, "what are you planning to do for your and Lala's date?" He either didn't notice the Owl in the last word or didn't call her on it, but Mocha shot the brunette a small glare. Naruto blinked stupidly before sheepishly replying, "Well, I honestly haven't a clue." The two girls frowned and glanced at each other. They silently agreed that his plan of asking them for help wouldn't do with a nod, and after ordering their meals, they led the blonde to a table, where they, surprisingly to him, sat on his opposite side. "Let's see if we get this straight," Kurumu growled quietly to the blonde, who realized he was now in hot water although he didn't know why. She continued with a slightly raising voice. "You brought Akashiya and I out here, to help you with that slut's date." Naruto frowned and defended himself. "Kuru-chan, you're the one that asked me about Lala-chan's date. All I have so far is a double date with Ra and Genie-san, so he and I will be coming up with a plan. I invited you both out here to make one thing clear." A large explosion in the square of town that shook the entire block cut him off. Naruto dove at the girls when he saw a torched automobile flying at the window, knocking them out of the chairs and to the floor. He covered them with his body, and waited until the car settled before pushing himself up, foregoing the genjutsu he had over his Sharingan eyes. He caught sight of Ra and the other girls. The Scot was being attacked by some cosplaying swordsmen. "Well, that can't be good," Naruto muttered, jumping to his feet and looking around. People were screaming in fear and others were hurt from the flying vehicle. The blonde frowned and held his hands in his signature technique's hand seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Quote, 40 duplicates of the blonde emerged after a large poof of smoke engulfed the area. Kurumu and Mocha stared at the many blondes, but were jarred from their thoughts when the original began shouting out orders. "Break up in groups of 10. Group 1, that's you idiots, get the injured out of here. Groups 2 and 3, you're on crowd control. Group 4, let's go kick some ass. Hi Oyabun," the duplicates exclaimed before leaping off to do what they were ordered. The original ran towards his downed friend, a small chirping coming from his right hand. His eyes Tomo spun wildly as they focused on the cosplaying fighter. As he neared the battle, he could hear the swordsman finish his sentence, "Princess Lala. You must come with me. As ordered by your father." "No, I wanna stay here and marry Judori 10 birds." Naruto's exclamation cut the pinkett off as he drove his lightning-encased fist in the ground where the swordsman once stood. The white-haired swordsman narrowed his eyes at the blonde. "Naruto-kun." "Temao," Lala and Yukari exclaimed in surprise and elation. Naruto glanced at them before looking over at the grumbling boogeyman as he pushed himself to his feet. "How in the hell did a shopping trip turn into a brawl with Mr. Tights over there?" asked the blonde to his friend, who scowled. "Shut it, Yasadi Sonova bitch," growled out the Scotsman. Ra cracked his neck and glared at the swordsman. "I'm a fist fighter, not a dancer." The white-haired man narrowed his eyes. "I am a swordsman of the elite Deviluk army, part of the high guards for the royal family. My skills with a sword are unmatched throughout the universe." "That's what I said," Ra deadpanned, "a faggot that happens to be a dancer." "Harsh. Dude," Naruto muttered. The swordsman grew a tick on his forehead and glared daggers at the Scotsman. "You earthlings, I was under the impression you were mere nuisances," he stated, making the boys growl, "just little ape men that thought they were smart." Says the white-haired human wannabe. Naruto shot back with a growl, "And for your information, we're not exactly human." The swordsman frowned and slipped into a ready stance. "Oh, then what planet are you from?" Naruto and Ra smirked, the latter slowly slipping into the ground with his phantom-like powers, before both said, "We're from Earth." "Zaston, don't fight them," Lala pleaded from the sidelines as she noted her former guardian's growing ire. "Naruto-kun isn't just a human." "I just said that, didn't I just say that?" Naruto whispered to the half-present Rawhead. The boogeyman nodded and looked around. "We're clear for a few minutes." I am down, Blondie," Ra muttered. Naruto crack. At his neck and a gust of wind suddenly started to whip around him. "With pleasure," the shinobi growled as his left hand became encased in the growing wind. Naruto clenched his left fist and there was a loud crack as he vanished from sight. Zaston's eyes widened as the blonde's fist connected with his face, small wind blades cutting him on impact. The white-haired swordsman flew back a few feet before colliding with a parked car, leaving a sizable dent. Naruto fell to a knee and panted. That technique wasn't ready just yet. He planned to encase his whole body in wind before he dished out a serving of ass-kicking awesomeness. The Tomo-eyed blonde's eyes widened when the alien suddenly appeared before him. Impressive, the swordsman stated before he attempted to slice the blonde in half. Naruto leapt out of the way and landed on the side of a building, making Zaston look at him with awe. The white-haired alien narrowed his eyes and murmured, "Most impressive." "Oi, don't go forgettin' about me," Rawhead cried out as he shot up from the ground and drove his shoulder into the alien's stomach. Zaston let a gasp of pain escape his lips as the Scotsman drilled his shoulder into his gut. The red-headed Scots momentum causing both of them to fly back into the same care he had dented before. Rawhead growled and gripped Zaston's hair before driving his left fist into the alien's face again and again. "Ya like da? Huh, ya son of a bitchin', girly ass, cross-dressing, motherfucker." Zaston drove his free hand into the Scotsman's gut, making Rawhead stumble backwards as he tried to regain the air he lost from the counter. The alien didn't let up and he drove the pommel of his sword into the jaw of T-Head cried out in pain, only for his head snapped to his left as Zaston delivered a left hook. The Scotsman was struck again with the pommel, this time in his solar plexus. Rawhead gasped loudly as the blow knocked the air from his lungs, before a left uppercut caused him to fly up and land with a rather loud impact on the concrete. "And you're the one that the princess chose for her husband?" Zaston questioned in disbelief. "You're nothing more than a thug with parlor tricks, you. NFIT for a kingdom as vast and influential as the Deviluk." "Kingdom." Rawhead barked out a laugh through his hacking and spat a glob of blood to the side before looking up with humor at the swordsman. "Ya fucking idiot, I ain't the one her princess chose." Zaston furrowed his brow and turned around when he felt a tap on the shoulder, just in time to be hit in the face with a metal pipe. The swordsman stumbled backwards, falling over the downed Scot, and landed on his back with a grunt. He blinked a few times to see the blonde with Tomos in his eyes twirling the offending pipe in his right hand. "Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Shinobi, student, and apparently Lala's fiancé. I'm gonna kick your ass now," he said cheerfully, before a blow to the back of the alien's head made him roll away from the two boys. A second blonde stood where Zaston previously sat, making the swordsman stare in astonishment. 3-on-1, what sort of fight is this? Zaston asked with a scowl. "It's not honorable." "What part of, Shinobi, didn't you understand, dumbass?" Naruto deadpanned with a frown. The swordsman furrowed his brows in confusion and Naruto smirked. "Oh, I see, first time fighting a ninja, Well, you're gonna love this then." Both the visible blondes vanished in puffs of smoke, leaving only a recovering Rawhead. Zaston looked around in preparation to fight only to stop when the bee Londa suddenly landed in front of him and clasped tightly onto the white-haired alien's face. "Tsukuyomi." Naruto announced his technique's name before Zaston found himself succumbing to unconsciousness. He blinked several times and found himself bound to a cross. A crunching got his attention and he looked up to see the blonde warrior, Naruto, standing a few feet away with an apple in hand. Only now, the blonde was dressed in light armor, a headband around his head, and his eyes were solid red. What sorcery is this?" Zaston asked with wide eyes, struggling to free himself. "What sort of mental traumatizing machine have you obtained?" Naruto chewed and donned a thinking face before he spoke. "Ya know, I don't think anyone I've brought here has ever asked what machine or sorcery this was. Congrats. I demand you answer me." Zaston snarled. Naruto tossed the apple away and vanished before reappearing in front of the alien. "You're in no position to make demands, pretty boy." The blonde snarled before backhanding the swordsman. When Zaston looked back up, Naruto took a good look into his eyes and he blinked before smirking. "So, you've never killed anyone, have you?" What? Zaston asked with wide eyes. Naruto's smirk fell into a smile and he nodded. "Good. I can trust you. Come again?" the alien asked in disbelief. Naruto sighed and a chair appeared behind both of them. Zaston found himself free of his binds and looked at his torturer. Naruto gestured to the chair. "Take a seat. I wanna talk," he said. Zaston looked at him wearily and mentally debated the consequences of not doing what Naruto suggested, before relenting and taking a seat. Rawhead waved his hand in front of Naruto's open eyes before looking at the girls. This ever happened before? Mocha frowned and shook her head before replying. No. Usually he wakes up a second later after using that. Do you think he overpowered the yokai Naruto Koi uses in his technique? Kurumu asked Mocha. You know, like the other you did. Mocha shook her head. Ura told me it took a lot of our yokai to interfere with Naruto-kun's Tsukuyomi. We probably couldn't do it again if either of us tried. Maybe they're talking. Tamao mused as she looked at her chosen mate's frozen state. We don't know how long we're in there. He says he can distort time, right? Yeah, but when he captured the few of you in the Monstar's base. Yeah, we're out for a minute, Rawhead answered before cupping his chin. There's no way of knowing how long they could be under. Maybe it depends on the mental training and the amount of minds, Genie spoke. Getting everyone's attention and making her shrink under their gaze. I mean it could be that. Genie-san's right, Yukari said with a proud nod. The mental power of T. His alien guy might be stronger than ours, but then again he was trained to be a bodyguard loyal to only Lala's family. Naruto-sensei must have had to sacrifice his ability to alter time in order to capture Zaston's mind. We'll just have to ask him when he snaps out of it, Lala mused before looking worriedly at Zaston. Daddy must be really mad if he sent Zaston. No, your father isn't mad, Princess Lala. The alien in question said suddenly, making the group jump back and those that could fell into fighting stances. Zaston fell to his knees before the princess and spoke again. Your father is just worried. I will send word you found a suitable husband. You dumbass. You were supposed to talk her out of it. Naruto cried out as he rubbed his eyes. Goddamn, my eyes hurt. How could I talk her out of a perfect candidate such as yourself? Zaston asked incredulously to the blonde, looking up at the princess. You have chosen well, princess. He has seen many battles and has fought for the only thing that matters. His family and friends. He shows the wisdom of a good king in progress and has a kind heart. His genetics will bear strong heirs to the crown as well. Dude, what? Naruto and the rest of the Yokai Academy girls cried out. Lala released a squeal of joy and latched onto the blonde in a glomp. Zaston stood and continued, I will send word to your father that I approach Ove of your marriage and I will accompany you back to this Yokai Academy so your relationship can flourish. Naruto groaned and covered his face with one hand, and an amused Rawhead looked at his friend. Only one Inoda would be distraught over having such a pretty girl engaged to ye. Yuck it up, Scotty boy, Naruto growled with a raised fist towards his laughing friend. Wait until the guys hear about this. They better not. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.